Call to order. Welcome to the regular board meeting of Halton Catholic District School Board on Tuesday, May 19th, 2020. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed and will be posted later on Halton Catholic District School Board YouTube channel. Trustees, be reminded to turn off your microphones and camera on your devices until you're recognized to speak. When you're recognized to speak, please put your hand up in the chat box. Once you've been recognized, please turn off your microphone and camera. Opening exercise, Trustee Caratal, would you please lead us into the opening exercise as prescribed in our bylaws under section 9.5.1. Go ahead, Trustee Caratal.
Of course, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your thoroughness to the bylaws. As we meet in this online medium, I invite you all to join me in the sign of our faith and this prayer to Saint Isidore, the patron saint of the internet. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Almighty and eternal God, who created us in thy image, and bade us to seek after all that is good, true, and beautiful, especially in the divine person of thy only begotten Son, our Lord Jesus Christ, grant us that, through the intercession of Saint Isidore, Bishop and Doctor, during our journeys through the internet, we will direct our hands and eyes only to that which is pleasing to thee, and treat with charity and patience all the souls whom we encounter. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
I affirm that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, her heirs and successors, and that I will faithfully observe the laws of Canada and fulfill my duties as a Canadian citizen. Thank you, Trustee Caratao. Vice Chair Dort, will please state the motions adopted in camera.
He's muted.
Trustee Dort, you're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Motions adopted in camera. There were no motions adopted in camera. Information received in camera. The following information was...
I'll lead you into that second portion. Vice Chair Dort, please make public the appointments, retirements received in camera.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Retirements: Maria DeSantis, Teresa Foster, Wendy Reed Purcell, and Elizabeth Todd, retiring June 30, 2020. Consultants: Joanne Kenny and Riona Richardson, appointed as consultants, effective September 1st, 2020, for a period of up to 3 years with the possibility of 1 year extension. Acting department heads: Angela Bryson, Melissa Culver, John Cossier, Olivia Lehman, and Colleen Quinlan, effective September 1st, 2020, for a period of up to 1 year. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Vice Chair Dort. Agenda item 2, approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a notice of motion, if you don't mind, please.
Go ahead, you have the floor, Trustee DeRosa.
Okay, my notice of motion is titled Financial Reporting and Board Responsibility for Financial Oversight.
Thank you, Trustee DeRosa. Where are we adding that?
10.5.
So that'll be added to agenda item 10.5.
Point of order, please, Mr. Chair.
Let me just get this. Go ahead, Trustee Guzzo, you have the floor. What is your point of order?
Thank you, Trustee Intomasi. Under action items, item 8.1, under the bylaws section 9.12 notice of motion, there's a point that says that the notice of motion shall be accompanied by an explanatory notice prior to the draft agenda being distributed. I didn't receive any explanatory notice. I don't know if any other trustees did in regards to this action item.
So I will allow that on the basis that trustee that has that particular motion on the table is able to speak to the motion before the motion is read.
I appeal your decision, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, take it to you want to take it to a vote, or do you wish to discuss it?
There is no discussion, but the point, we have had items like this dealt with before where other trustees, some who currently have items on the table, have raised the same issue, and they were not action items, but this action item is spoken to very clearly in the bylaws where it says that it's supposed to come with explanatory notes prior to
bullet number 5, yes.
Mr. Chair.
Agenda.
So
Mr.
hang on.
Chair, may I have
So hang on a second, Trustee DeRosa. I understand this is a contentious issue. Can we just allow Trustee Guzzo to finish?
No problem.
Trustee Guzzo, can you please continue?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's not that it's a contentious issue. It's about following process, and there's been several notices that have come up from other trustees about following process. And if we're going to follow process, we have to be consistent in following process. We don't get to cherry pick which process we choose to follow at certain times because it's convenient.
Apparently the mistake is at this end. The reason being is that Trustee Carabella did provide the board with an explanatory note, which she can read now. So it was an oversight on the part of staff. That is.
What? Can you please forward the email that would have been provided then?
Excuse me, just bear with me. Just bear with me. I'm trying to see who the email went to. So my understanding is that the email went to Secretary Daly. No? I was copied. That's right. So Secretary Daly was copied on that particular explanatory note. And so I don't know.
Mr. Chair, are we talking about my notice of motion or something else here?
It's not your notice of motion.
Trustee DeRosa, please do not interject. We're not talking about your notice of motion. Your notice of motion will be dealt with under 10.5 later on. We're talking about the motion, an action item, which is 8.1, which refers to Trustee Carabella's motion, which she gave last meeting.
My apologies. Thank you for the clarification, sir.
No problem. So do we have that sorted out? Can we just move on to,
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. I still don't know who the email went to, and I haven't seen the explanatory. We're supposed to get it again. We've gone through this on several occasions, and Trustee Carabella has been very adamant on following process. And I think that
it's not her failure, though. Trustee Guzzo, excuse me.
Trustee Intomasi, I'm still speaking, and
but you're asking for something that
I would like to see. You said that there was an email. Whoever has it can forward it to all the trustees, but that still doesn't mean we were not granted access to it prior to the draft agenda, which is what our bylaws state.
I'm in agreement with you. All I'm waiting for is for Secretary Daly to provide me with the email because I'm also not aware of it.
But it doesn't change the fact that it wasn't before the agenda under our bylaws.
Can I speak to this point? Because I have a copy of the email. I can send it. May I have the floor, Mr. Chair?
So go ahead, Trustee Carabella, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. I do have the email. I made an explanatory note, and Trustee Guzzo is correct. I am very careful to follow the rules, and in particular, this rule. And I'm just going to find it in the bylaws that it says to provide the explanatory note. It doesn't actually say who, if it's to the chair or the director. Everything
goes through the secretary.
So I sent it to the chair, the vice chair. I copied the director. So, and I did that prior to the 7 days, prior to the draft agenda. I'm very happy to forward it to you. I can do that right now. My motion is a bit later.
Sorry, Trustee Chairman Tomasi, I don't believe that that it's really up for debate because it is a point of order. But is Secretary Daly saying that he did receive the email?
Apparently, we all received it.
I was copied on, through you, Mr. Chair. I was copied on the email, yes.
And so did, I was copied as well, as was Vice Chair Duert, as was Rosie DiPietro. I do not have it, so I do not know. But in any event,
Well, how do we see an action item though? This isn't a discussion item. This is actually an action item where there is something on the table that needs to be voted on. And the reason why the bylaw speaks to having it prior to the draft agenda is that so trustees are given the opportunity to reflect on what the situation is and make an informed decision based on that information provided, so that we can have a wholesome discussion under once the motion is on the table.
So Trustee Guzzo, excuse me, hang on, Trustee O'Brien, you haven't been recognized. So Trustee Guzzo, I agree with you. However, the matter is that it was received. Apparently, I received it as well. As everybody knows, I have some issues with internet connectivity and receipt of emails. I will call on Trustee Duert. Did you receive it, Trustee Duert?
Mr. Chair.
No, I'm trying to verify.
I'm giving a point of order, though. Point of order is everybody is supposed to be given the same opportunity, not just the chair and the vice chair. So whether it was sent to you or not.
Well, I recall, Trustee Guzzo, excuse me, I do recall when I didn't have connectivity and I was overruled on the basis that I should have found a way to get the information.
I'm sorry,
This matter,
Mr. Chair,
excuse me, I have the floor. And I'm the chair, so I bear with me.
It's not relative to the conversation.
Can you one more time and I will mute you. All right, so you're going to have to listen to what I have to say. We have been sent the explanatory notes. Trustee Carabella met all the requirements. I will hold this matter to be dealt with this evening. If you wish to appeal my decision, you can do that and we can take it to a vote.
I've already appealed.
You have the floor now.
I already appealed your decision, Mr. Chair, and I just want to make a point of order again, which is governance, which is every trustee that sits on this board is afforded equal rights, one not over the other. And the question that I pose is not all of us were afforded the same. So I do have
point of order.
So that would be not a point of order. That would be a point of privilege first and foremost. So your point of order, you're going to have to define what it is, and you haven't defined it as yet.
I did my point of order, and I appealed it. I appealed your decision to overrule to allow.
Well, an appeal requires a vote. So if you wish to bring it to a vote, I'm quite willing to do that. I'm offering that opportunity to you. But there are two other people that wish to speak on the matter. Trustee Agnew, you have the floor.
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say the same thing, that when we had these discussions prior, that there was an insistence that bylaws be followed. As to what Trustee Guzzo said, we should all be afforded the equal opportunity to review those. This is not the same as you not having connectivity. That's a very different situation. This was an email that was sent to you, and it was also sent to Trustee Duert, and it was also sent to our secretary, and yet it was not sent to us. So that needed to be forwarded to us prior to this meeting, so that we would have an opportunity to review those notes prior to that being an action item to be voted on. So with all due respect, it is not similar to your connectivity issues. I don't see why those are related. And I believe that we should have been sent that information prior to this. And I can't, can you just let me finish? So I do believe that we should have been given that information prior to, as per the bylaws. Thank you.
To you is that we did receive the information. Staff somehow wasn't circulated. So Trustee Duart, you have the floor. Can you please speak to this matter, whether or not you received that?
Through Mr. Chair, yes, I searched through my email. We received it, Secretary Daly, you and myself received it on the 8th of this month. So we did receive it on time. The explanatory note is there. I believe it should have been circulated or part of the package. We did receive it.
Say that again,
Point of order,
Trustee
point of order,
Duart.
point of order. If this is an appeal, there's no debate. Take the vote.
I agree with you. I agree with you. So can we take a vote? Trustee DeRosa.
Can we please say what we're voting? This is exactly
So this
what?
is whether or not we're keeping your motion as an action item.
You muted?
You're muted,
Yeah, you're
Mr.
muted.
Chair.
You muted?
So the vote is whether or not you agree with the appeal or whether you agree with my ruling.
Can you clarify, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
State your ruling, Mr. Chair.
So hang on a second. So in favor would mean that you uphold my ruling. Sorry. Say it again.
In favor is they agree with the appeal.
So in favor would mean that you agree with the appeal put forward by Trustee Guzzo. Opposed would then mean that you agree with my ruling. So I will start with Trustee DeRosa.
Janet has her hand up.
Opposed.
Okay.
Janet has her hand up, Mr. Chair.
Speaking
I don't
out of
have that. You cannot interrupt the vote with hand up. Thank you.
She had her hand up before the vote was taken.
With all due respect, if I may speak, just let me know if I can speak. If not, tell me not to speak, please.
Trustee O'Hearn, I can only react to what I'm given. So I was not given that you had your hand up. If you did have your hand up, I will take your word for it. So please go ahead. You have the floor.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, with all due respect, I know we're having an appeal, so I just want to bring something up, that if an error has occurred in our bylaws or a mistake has happened, we need to move forward. If most people are not prepared to speak to this motion, defer it to the next board meeting.
So you're giving me another choice. However, the bylaws don't read that way. The bylaws read that as long as the explanatory notes have been provided, there's no provision in there that they has to be circulated to everybody.
Just to follow up through you, Mr. Chair, to perform our due diligence, I would just like to talk to the rest of the fellow trustees to say, isn't it better that all the trustees have the information so they can make an informed decision, regardless whether they have it or not, to defer it a week?
Yeah, so you have you're putting forward a new motion, so your motion will take precedence. So I will put your motion on the table to be voted on. So can you state your motion again, please?
My motion be it resolved that we move, what's the item, 8.2, to the next regularly scheduled board meeting, which is June help me out.
June 2nd, 2020.
June 2nd, 2020, in the year of our Lord.
All right, can I have a seconder to your motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Trustee Agnew. Trustee DeRosa, are you in favor or against?
I'm not in favor of the delay.
All right, so you're opposed. Trustee O'Brien?
Opposed.
Trustee Carabella?
Opposed.
Trustee Duart?
In favor.
Trustee Guzzo?
In favor.
Trustee Agnew?
In favor.
Trustee O'Hearn Zernota?
In favor?
Trustee Murphy?
Opposed.
Trustee Caratal?
Opposed.
Trustee Swan,
In favor.
Trustee Bambra.
In favor.
All right, my vote is that I'm opposed as well. So the matter stays. Your motion has been voted down, Trustee O'Hearn Zernota. So I will go back to the other motion. The other motion with reference to whether or not the appeal would be allowed. So Trustee DeRosa,
Forgive me.
you had already voted opposed.
I supported your decision.
All right, so it's opposed. Trustee O'Brien.
Opposed.
Trustee Carabella.
Opposed.
Trustee Dort.
Opposed.
Trustee Guzzo.
In favor.
Trustee Agnew.
Favor.
Trustee O'Hearn Zernota.
In favor.
Trustee Murphy. Opposed. All right, motion fails. We will continue with agenda item 8.1.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. You forgot our
I'm sorry? Excuse me, hang on. Sorry, my apologies. Trustee Cartell.
I abstain, Mr. Chair.
Trustee Swan.
Abstain.
Trustee Bambra.
Abstain.
Thank you. So the motion fails. Agenda item 8.1 stays on the agenda. Thank you. Sorry for the confusion. We will now move on to, can we have approval of the agenda as amended? Can I have a mover?
I'll move, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, there's a notice of motion. So,
I second it.
all right. Moved by, my apologies, I missed that. DeRosa, seconded by Trustee O'Brien. All right, I will take this matter to a vote. Trustee DeRosa. Trustee DeRosa, can I please have a vote on the approval of the agenda as amended?
In favor.
Trustee O'Brien?
In favor?
Trustee Carabella?
In favor.
Trustee Dort?
In favor.
Trustee Guzzo?
Opposed?
Trustee O'Hearn Zernota?
Opposed.
Trustee Murphy? In favor. Trustee Antomasi? In favor.
And Trustee Agnew was
Caracol?
opposed.
So hang on, I'm not there yet.
Yeah,
Bear
you
with
were.
me.
You were going on to the student trustees. Trustee Agnew's opposed.
All right. Trustee Agnew, you're opposed. All right, Trustee Caracol.
In favor.
Trustee Swan?
Abstained.
Abstention. Motion passes. Agenda item 3, are there any conflict of interest this evening?
I think you missed Trustee Bambra.
No, I did say Bambra, didn't I?
You did not.
Trustee Bambra.
Opposed.
Maybe I was muted. Okay, all right, very good. No, I put it down, opposed. Okay. Moving on to agenda item 3, declarations of conflict of interest. Are there any declarations this evening? There's no declarations. We have 2 presentations this evening. 4.1, roles and responsibilities of itinerants and consultants and program services. Which superintendent from program services will begin the presentation? Do I know? Superintendent Percassin, you have the floor.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. And we're speaking to the roles and responsibilities of itinerants and consultants, and the purpose of the report this evening is to provide a response to a trustee request for further information regarding roles and responsibilities of teachers who are itinerants and consultants assigned to the Program Services Department, Curriculum, Special Education, and Student Success. I'm going to begin the presentation with a little bit of what I hope will be a summary of what is within your report, and hopefully not as lengthy. It's 3 minutes. And then I'll be turning you over to Superintendent McGillicuddy, and then he will be turning you over to Superintendent Cipriano to bring us to closure. So you have before you from Curriculum Services a presentation just outlining some highlights, beginning with reflections from Pope John Paul II and Pope Francis on teaching that are very dear to us and guide our department. The next slide talks about the number of schools that we serve, as well as the number of elementary and secondary teachers that we have in our system that we are serving. And then before you have our 8 consultants, as well as our 6 itinerants, for you to put a face to a name, so to speak, and understand that we are a small but mighty department, and I'm very proud to share the faces of the people who make this department what it is and have the impact that they do on our system. The next slide talks about the number of itinerant consultants to teachers, and it's 1 to 165 teachers, so 1 itinerant and consultant team. The next slide is going to give you an overview of our sessions to date from September to December 2019. So just in a few short months, we did 190 sessions and had the participation of approximately 3,500 of our teachers. And then just something to think about, something to reflect upon. 1 teacher in a classroom affects the learning of 25 students on average. One teacher as an itinerant consultant who conducts 25 sessions per year, which is a conservative number of sessions, with approximately 20 teachers present, can impact 12,500 students potentially, just by virtue of impacting and accelerating the achievement of our students and having the opportunity for capacity building and professional development. Building collective efficacy, developing instructional practices that are sound and in keeping with curriculum expectations, and keeping us current and the best we can be to ensure that all of our students reach their God-given potential. So I'm going to turn you over to Superintendent McGillicuddy to speak to student success after we have a final reflection upon professional development programs overall having the potential to accelerate student achievement and not just impact, according to John Hattie. And there are other research articles available for you within the report. So thanks for your attention to that, and over to Superintendent McGillicuddy.
Thank you, Superintendent Percassin. In student success, our board pathways team supports students in grades 7 to 12 to tailor their education to their individual strengths, goals, and interests to increase credit accumulation and graduation rates. The main pillars of this initiative are grade 7 to 12 literacy and numeracy, that's the EQAO, the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, specialist high skills majors, dual credits, co-op and experiential learning, and supporting successful transitions from elementary to secondary schooling. Trustees will recall that at the September 17th, 2019 regular board meeting, they had a presentation from consultants Mark Ives and John Dietrich on pathways. I draw trustees' attention to the Appendix C for a description of board pathways team member roles and responsibilities. And now I'll turn the presentation over to Superintendent Cipriano.
Thank you, Colin. And thank you, trustees. My explanation is going to be maybe a little bit longer. The 8 pages of the report provides a detailed outline of all of our consultants and itinerants in special education and their specific roles and responsibilities. Thank you, Rosie, for posting our first and last page of our report. We believe the first page gives a good overview and philosophy of what we do in special education, and the final page is a nice reflection on the numbers in special education. If you'll indulge me, as I said, I'd like a few minutes to speak to the report and the story of special education and how we support our schools and, by extension, the students in our system who are vulnerable and need that support. I also want to point out that we have a large group of staff who have tuned in this evening to the board meeting. Our staff of consultants, itinerants, are all part of this meeting here tonight, watching and observing the meeting and just wanting to listen in on how we will be explaining what their roles are. In reviewing the first page of the package you've received, you will see the structure we've built in order to adequately support our schools to meet the needs of over 5,000 students with special education needs, the vast majority of whom have IEPs. We have 6 special education consultants who oversee all aspects of special education in the schools they support. This is a number which really hasn't changed in almost 4 years, despite the increase in our enrollment and subsequently the increasing number of students with special needs. We had 5 special education consultants for the decade preceding this time. These consultants lead the work of the itinerant generalists who each support 5 or 6 schools on a regularly scheduled weekly basis to carry out the extensive work on behalf of the special education department. What makes the roles of special education consultants and itinerant generalists so critical is that we have a significant responsibilities to the Ministry of Education, human rights and accessibility mandates, and legal requirements, which must be met and strictly adhered to. Everything from requirements associated with identified exceptional students, to developing IEPs, to adhering to the many policy and program memorandums that exist for special education, to implementing Ministry of Education directives, for example, recently the autism program, learning disabilities, health and medical mandates. These staff members ensure that policies such as those for service animals and psych ed assessments are understood in our schools and implemented by our staff. They oversee countless processes such as the allocation of educational assistance, specialized equipment and technology, special ed incident portion claims, which generates, as you can see in the final page of our report, $1.7 million back to the board that is directly related to EA salaries and EA staff in our schools. These are just a few examples of things that require our staff to develop processes and procedures for. We need a team of highly experienced special educators to develop and update these processes, provide professional development around them, and to ultimately monitor them to ensure compliance at every level. I'd like you to think if we didn't have these staff members, schools would be left to interpret involved mandates on their own, which would most certainly leave us lacking in consistency at best, and possibly in danger of failing to meet rigorous guidelines and expectations set out by the Ministry of Education and possible human rights violations at worst. The model we have created supports the work of principals in our schools. Our principals have multiple demands on their time, including curriculum delivery, health and safety, student safety, just to name a couple of those. They have become somewhat of general practitioners in their schools, as they should be. They must know a little bit about a lot of things, so they depend on our special education consultants and itinerant generalists to really help them navigate and understand things on a deeper level with respect to special education. Our staff are often the first people our families will meet once they've registered at their child's school, who lead them through the complex and sometimes scary world of special education. Our team guides families through the transition to school and continue to meet with them and guide them through the process of identification, IEP development, assessments, multiple transitions, and referrals to special support services personnel, such as speech, psychology, CYC, and social work. They develop important relationships with our families as they navigate the education system for their children, whose needs fall somewhere outside of the typical, who need different things in order to make their school experience meaningful and safe, and where their potential can constantly be challenged. Our special education consultants in particular act as a liaison between school teams and parents, helping to build and maintain positive collaborative working relationships with families. We see this as critical to ensuring relationships do not break down, and so that parents always feel that they connect with someone who has both the expertise to help navigate challenges and the ability to work with all stakeholders in a timely fashion. I can tell you in my 2 years in the role, I've heard from many parents over the past just 2 years how they feel that our special education consultant is that advocate and their voice for their child in our schools. We have worked incredibly hard for over the past 4 years to build a model of support for students and their families that is not driven by crisis. Rather, we've developed well thought out structures to get in front of challenges to the very best of our ability. For students with behavioral needs, we have intentional and systematic supports that get activated as soon as the special education consultants become aware. For those with academic or emotional challenges, we host board team meetings 4 to 5 times per year at each of our schools. This school year, among other things, our team was focused on developing a multidisciplinary model of support to address the needs of students with significant mental health issues and to help their parents as well. Our consultants and itinerant generals work with all of the members of our special education department to ensure a collaborative approach in all that we do. If there is an expertise among the various disciplines that can be utilized, it is activated, and we wrap around each student accordingly. In order to achieve something like this, we must have a team of educators who are experts in special education, who have connections to community agencies, who have relationships with all stakeholders. This is the model that we've built. It's a model that many other school boards have actually come to speak to us about. It is a model we cannot imagine operating without. This model is built upon the philosophy that we do not just support our students, but we strive to move them to greater and greater heights, as long as they are with us, and some are with us to 21. We have tonight displayed the final page of our report entitled Special Education by the Numbers, yearly, to simply provide a snapshot of what occurs with the support of our special education consultants and itinerants every single year, something that would be virtually impossible to duplicate without their work. Myself and our Colin would be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding any and all of our report. So thank you.
Floor? Trustee Dort, you have the floor.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I see it's a very good report, roles and responsibilities of itinerants. I know we have a lot of things happening at the back, which I have not been aware of, and this report does bring to the front what happens in the background. However, I'm looking through this report, and it has been very positive right from the beginning. We have highlighted what work is going on. However, towards the end and the conclusion, it's kind of dull and gloomy, because it points out and says that it is important to consider who would assume the duties of the itinerant and consultant should their positions be reduced and eliminated. So, and then further it goes on to say whether we have too many, but rather do we have enough staff to meet the learning needs of our teachers and students. So my question is, why are we thinking that the trustees are interested in reducing the staff of consultants? I know there's a lot of work to be done and they're doing a good job. So why did this thought occur in the conclusion, Mr. Chair?
Who wishes to address that? Superintendent Percassen?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. The closing comments, we are and I will certainly speak on my own behalf and not that of my colleagues, but when looking at our roles and responsibilities of itinerants and consultants, there have been a number of questions that have been asked with regard to how many itinerants and consultants we have, what their jobs are, and we had reductions last year, what the reductions were, a lot of questions around the need for consultants and itinerants. So the presumption on my part was that there is discussion related to reducing the number of curriculum itinerants and consultants, and perhaps it is incorrect on my part, but that has been my interpretation and my understanding from the onset. And the roles and responsibilities that have been outlined, it is important to note that as our student population and teacher population has increased, at least in the curriculum department, the number of itinerants and consultants to serve our teachers and students has been reduced, and that has been going on for the last number of years. And so on behalf of the department that I represent, I want to ensure that everyone has a fulsome understanding of the great contribution that the curriculum itinerant consultants make to our board, to our teachers, ultimately to student achievement and the impact as well. So hence my comment, and I wrote it, so I certainly will speak to it, that any consideration around reducing the number of itinerants and consultants further, as per the recommendation, and I believe one of the budget response to the survey, the budget response survey, is something that needs to be considered very carefully, in the sense that we feel that we do impact not only teacher learning, but student learning and achievement. And we have the data to back that up, and we're proud of the work that we do. And so I hope that explains my interpretation of the purpose of this request. And I trust that that's been helpful.
Thank you, Superintendent Percassen. Now, Trustee Dort, do you have a supplementary?
Just a comment to Superintendent Percassen. It's not that we are looking to reduce or anything. It's just that the understanding part for me personally, Now I understand the roles, responsibilities of the consultants. Previously, it was just the term consultant, and which meant something else. But now, when I go deeper into reading this report, it throws a good light. Thank you for the report, Superintendent Prakashan.
Trustee Murphy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, first I'd like to echo Trustee Duart's comments. I think the report was excellent. It was very helpful. I found it quite helpful to understand the different roles of consultants and itinerants in the different areas. I think we had the dream team of SOs presenting, Superintendent Prakashan, McGillicuddy, and Cipriano. If you guys were a baseball team, you'd be cleaning up. The question I have is more to help me as a trustee to answer questions when they're brought to us about there always is that perception of being top heavy in every organization. It's a hospital, a school, a university, it doesn't matter. That's people's natural reactions. And my natural reaction is, well, if you look at the results, we have high student achievement, we have beautiful schools, we don't have a lot of social issues in our schools, so then obviously we're doing something right. But people expect and want more metrics. So could you help me understand, is there some, the metrics involved with you being able to determine, or let's look at it a different way, say, are we meeting the needs of our students? Do we have a need for more itinerants? If so, in what areas? And how do you determine that? What are the metrics you use to determine that really we need more? And something that would be helpful for trustees is almost having in the back of our mind when budget time does come is hey, we could use more itinerants in math, or if STEM is something that we really want to pursue, then maybe that's a direction that we need to know that at least in the back of our mind we have a backlog, or we need to start filling some of those positions. So hopefully that makes some sense and you'll be able to answer that question.
Murphy. Superintendent Prakashan, did you want to respond to that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you for that wonderful description of our team, Trustee Murphy. With regard to a response, I certainly invite my colleagues to join me. The metrics from a curriculum perspective are available. We do have data to support the impact upon teacher learning and student learning, and I know that we've provided some testimonials and other items to you in the report that I don't need to go over, but suffice it to say that if we are going to get serious with regard to student-centered coaching, in the very least, then that is something that will require more staff down the road. Certainly, I'm pleased to provide any metrics or anything. We do have a number of presentations coming up over the next board meetings related to annual reports around student-centered coaching, evidence-based strategies, and other projects that we started this year, including FSL, which is this evening, that I hope will give you more information, but we are certainly pleased to provide more data if it is to be helpful to the team. And so I would turn it over to, with your permission, Mr. Chair, through to Superintendent McGillicuddy and Cipriano if they have anything further to add. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. And through you, Mr. Chair, I think the most significant metrics where student success is concerned would be credit accumulation and graduation rates, both of which are very high here in our board, and we want to keep them that way. And also our EQAO scores, where the bulk of our work is with our applied level learners. That you.
Thank you, Superintendent McGillicuddy. Superintendent Cipriano, do you have anything to add to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. Just we do work very closely with our research department, looking at the different metrics for success for students in special education in a very appropriate timing. Part of this, it is something that was also brought up with our Auditor General and requesting how do we review information, how do we review success criteria for students in special education. And so we are working with our research department to find out how we can find those specific metrics in order to report back to the board, report back to SEAC on how we are best supporting our students. We have also put a lot of our supports in place for students with mental health this year. We've had funding from the ministry for that, and so with respect to looking, to the future and looking where we, more investment could take place, probably that would be one area that generally speaking we'd be looking at. And again, as I mentioned earlier, more and more students are coming to us on the autism spectrum, and with the continued commitment by the province and the Ministry of Education to supporting students with autism in the autism program, I would see that would be an area also that may require further investment in the future.
Thank you. I understand Superintendent McGillicuddy, you wish the floor again?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to add, amongst the metrics that we think are very important are our grade 8 to grade 9 retention rates, which means that the very high number of students who come to our high schools from our elementary schools, and the enviable number of public school students that we do attract from our coterminus board. And thank you again.
Thank you. Trustee Carabella, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So thank you for the report. It's very informative. So I'm trying to understand too, so regarding the itinerant teachers, they have a particular, can I take an example of an itinerant teacher for who helps a deaf and hard of hearing child, and if she's not there for that child at that moment, so there's the regular teacher who's there for the child, and she comes to teach the teacher to help the child, or does she teach and help the child himself or herself? So I guess my question is, are they involved in teaching the children, or do they teach the teacher? And a follow-up would be, do they go into the classroom and teach with the teacher for several days, or is it, an hour? Or I'm just trying to get a fulsome picture. Thank you.
Camillo, Superintendent Cipriano, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to Trustee Carabella. So the simple answer is that it's a hybrid of both. So they do support both students, and a large part of their work is also supporting staff in the building, obviously the classroom teacher, the school CERT, in supporting that child when they're not in the building. They do have a regular schedule in visits to schools. So it's not it's a little bit difficult for me to speak to very specifically how many days in each school. It's a schedule. I do have our coordinator of special education present tonight, part of this meeting. She's been invited, Wendy Reed Purcell. If you'd like, I can call on Wendy to give you more details of what that might look like. If you'd like, Trustee Carabella, through you, Mr. Chair.
Sure, thank you.
Good evening. Through you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Cipriano, you did a great job. The only thing I would add to that is it really does depend on the degree of hearing loss. So we service students, our itinerants for the deaf, hard of hearing, service students who have mild hearing loss to quite extensive to profound hearing loss. So depending on the needs of the students, that would dictate how much time the itinerants for deaf, hard of hearing actually spend with students, but Mr. Cipriano did a great job explaining that their work is a hybrid of both servicing students directly and supporting those staff around those students, including working in collaboration with speech pathologists and educational assistants and communicative disorders assistants.
Thank you very much. Trustee Agnew, I believe you want to add something to this?
Sorry, could I have a follow-up?
Yes, go ahead, Trustee Carabella.
Thank you. So do other itinerants ever teach in the classrooms?
She actually has.
Through you, Mr. Chair, would you like me to answer that question?
Go ahead, yes.
So Trustee Carabella, yes, they do. It depends very much, again, on individual student needs. So I can explain a couple of ways that our itinerant generalists, because as you would have seen in the report, We have itinerants for blind, low vision, and those for deaf and hard of hearing. They definitely provide more direct support to students, but our generalists provide quite a bit of support when it comes to things such as transdisciplinary rounds, focused support, and transition work, specifically when those kinds of services have been triggered and approved by a special education consultant. That begins the work of very direct support to teachers in the classroom to coach them and model strategies by working directly with students. In addition, they may support educational assessments, they may support empower reading strategies. There are a host of things they would do with teachers and directly with students. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. I would like to take this opportunity, given that it's already been announced that you're retiring. I would like to personally thank you for all the wonderful work that you've done, and I think you will be missed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I really appreciate hearing those words. I will miss the work very much, but perhaps I'll hang around. Maybe you'll have a little task or two for me to do in light of all the distance learning and our return to school in September. Who knows?
Thank you. Thank you. Trustee Agnew, I believe you have the floor now.
And I don't want to jump ahead of any of my fellow trustees, so this is not a question. I'll stay in the queue for that. But I don't know if there'd be value or not, but specific to Trustee Carabella's question with respect to the itinerants for the deaf and hard of hearing, just for what it's worth, I'm able to give you the perspective of a parent. So if I take my trustee hat off for a moment, I can speak very clearly to the work that that the deaf and hard of hearing itinerants, as an example, do with students. My son has been involved with that itinerant since day one, and initially was very, very hands-on. So, meeting with him, working with him one-to-one, working out how to do assessments because his assessments needed to be done differently, but going beyond that to make sure that the classroom environment was favorable for his learning, making sure that the school itself was favorable for his learning, working with teachers, working with EAs, working with the CERTs, working with the staff on strategies and interventions and implementing those different things, working with speech and language pathology, on his technology requirements, working with the school or with the audiologist to make sure that we had the proper equipment for him. And now that he's older, and this is where Superintendent Cipriano had commented that it's a bit of a hybrid model. Now that he is older, her direct withdrawal support will actually change, and she will not work with him as much one-on-one, but her support will continue to make sure that he is supported through modeling and other interventions, again, through the classroom teacher, the EA, and the CERT. So, I have personally felt the impact of these roles, and I attribute a tremendous amount of McLean's success to the roles of not only all of the spec ed department, but certainly those itinerant positions. So I just thought, since that had come up, I wanted to share that with my fellow trustees. And I just wanted to thank everybody for that presentation. It was extremely informative. Again, I know what it is that you do. I see it hands-on, but to see it explained in that capacity from all different aspects, not just spec ed, was extremely valuable. So thank you for the work that you put into that.
You can continue with your question now. Trustee Agnew, you have the floor, so continue on with your question.
You know what? That's okay. I don't have a question through you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to comment on the impact of those positions, how important they are, and I was glad to see that reiterated and explained tonight. And I hope that a number of my fellow trustees have a better understanding of exactly what it is that those positions offer from a value perspective and an impact perspective for our students and our staff. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Trustee Agnew. Trustee O'Brien, you have the floor now.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to thank Superintendents Percassen, Cipriano, and McGillicuddy for such a comprehensive presentation. I was especially impressed by the mention of job embedded professional development. So my question is to Secretary Daly. It mentions in the resource section that a good consultant could impact as many as 12,500 students in a given year. Is there some sort of evaluation tool or metric that you use to measure this impact when it comes to evaluating these consultants and itinerants? Is that clear?
Sorry, technical difficulties. Go ahead.
Did you hear any of that?
I heard your question, Trustee O'Brien. I don't think you heard my response. So I'll start over again. So certainly itinerants and consultants as teachers, as elected members, would be subject to the teacher performance appraisal process, like all of our teachers would be. But in addition to that, one of the things that we do in terms of, I don't know if the term is metrics, but that seems to be the word we want to use tonight. One of the things we do is try and assess the impact of the work on teacher practice. And that's not an easy thing to do. We always want to see results kind of bottom line. Student went from here to here, improved from this point to this point. Sometimes before we get to that, though, we have to look at what impact there has been on classroom teachers. So when teachers involve themselves in professional development, that's led by our program services staff, one of the things that we do is follow up those teachers. Has this professional development changed your practice? Has it made you think of students in a different way? Do you see your role differently in the classroom? And actually at the beginning of this year, the tail end of last year and the beginning of this year, certainly in curriculum services, we have tried to spend some time on assessing that work of professional development. It's something that the ministry is interested in as well. It's something that the auditor's interested in terms of getting, I guess it's return on investment or value on investment. So it is something that we try to do on an ongoing basis. There is a bit of a balance between the quantitative and qualitative side of it. I thought it was interesting, and thank you to our three superintendents for the report tonight, as well as to our family of schools superintendents, who would have contributed as well, and could certainly from a principal's perspective talk about how important those supports are at the school level. But I think it's interesting that in the report that none of the superintendents really mentioned the work that's been ongoing since we've been in our extended school closure period. I'm assuming they didn't do that because it's just assumed that that is the role of our itinerants and consultants. And the load that they've carried in supporting our schools and teachers and reimagining much of the work we do, I think has been outstanding. It's necessary work that we've had up until this point. It's certainly going to be necessary work that we're going to need up until the end of the school year. And also when we reopen in September, whatever that is going to look like, I think we'll be leaning heavily on all of those people as well.
Trustee DeRosa, you have the floor. Sorry, do you have a supplementary? My apologies, Trustee O'Brien.
And this is to all, any of the superintendents. Your article on job-embedded professional development was excellent. Are we moving to that model? Are we using it now? Can any of the superintendents speak to that? Thank you.
Do we know which superintendent wants to address that? Superintendent Percassin, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the question. Definitely in the curriculum department, the job-embedded professional development has been a direction that we adopted a number of years ago and continue to do so. Obviously now we've learned a lot about the value of the virtual connection, which we know that we're going to be continuing in the time to come, as that has been very successful. We've had great teacher support and involvement in many sessions over the distance learning time, and certainly Director Daly is very correct in stating that we didn't include our distance learning professional development and capacity building that we have done in a very short time with, but we're happy to do that should that be at the request of the board. In direct answer to your question, it is something that you will see in the student-centered coaching approach that we have been using and the evidence-based strategies with our secondary teachers. And so we'll be sharing the data. And what I mean by data, it's about teacher participation, and then it's about the result at the student desk, the improvement in student achievement in a particular area, in a particular task, to indicate that instructional practices can be impacted through capacity building and professional development. And it is definitely work that we continue and that we're very proud of, but it is something that has to be consistent. It has to be over time, and we've been very pleased with everything that we're doing. Earlier this week as well, I believe that we have shared our Instructional Rounds model with you, which again supports that level of job-embedded practice, and the fact that in working together and supporting one another as peers, teachers supporting teachers, we can have an excellent result at the student desk over time and in all of our results. It does, however, take 3 years for change to become impacted and to show in any other kind of results that we're used to measuring ourselves by. For example, one of the means that we measure ourselves by, obviously in Ontario, is EQAO, and we anticipate that we will be seeing changes if we continue with the consistent practice of student-centered coaching and good capacity building and professional development. We hope to see the impact on the student desk and also in our student results. So thanks for the question. I hope that's been helpful. If there's anything further, let me know and I'll clarify further.
Thank you for the explanation.
Thank you, Superintendent Percassen. So Trustee DeRosa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, first of all, I'm very grateful to have received this report because it's been an education for myself, and I'm impressed with the level of professionalism, and I'm impressed with the people who are involved in this matter. I would just remark that from a trustee standpoint, there's a hunger for information. Not necessarily because, we're looking to take indiscriminate action. It's primarily for the purpose of wanting information in order to make good decisions. And sometimes when we probe for information, it may be taken as an affront, but I can assure you it's never requests for information are never done with that spirit. Information is important to make good decisions because there's nothing worse than making decisions on wrong facts. There's nothing worse than making wrong decisions, especially when they impact our kids. So just a commentary, it wasn't a question. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Trustee DeRosa. Trustee Guzzo, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Hold on just 1 second, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. I just want to reiterate what some of the other trustees have said and thank the staff for that great presentation. I just want to ask a question in the sense of the itinerants, especially when you've got spec ed itinerants. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you could have a situation that happens in the year and you could think, and I'll use, is the word metrics, I think that's the word that's been used tonight. When you're trying to do metrics, you could start at one point at the beginning of the year, but as the year evolves and as you get into curriculum and you see the needs of students change, or you see something that wasn't there before, you could potentially end up needing more support than actually started at the beginning. And what the beginning of the year looks like could look very different in the middle of the year to the end of the year. Am I off when I ask that?
Who wants to address that? Did you want to address that, Secretary Daly?
Maybe I can start, and then if Superintendent Cipriano wants to speak specifically to spec ed or Superintendent Percassen to curriculum. I think I would agree with the Trustee Guzzo. And I think one of the things that we've tried to do with our itinerants and consultants is to have some flexibility and try to be nimble in how we address student needs. So itinerants may focus on a particular school or a particular classroom or supporting a student for a certain period of time, see that there's been some success, see that the teacher can continue with that success, and then we'd have the ability to reallocate that resource elsewhere. But it's certainly something that we do try to continually monitor throughout the school year.
Thank you, Secretary Daly. Trustee Guzzo, do you have a supplementary?
Just that really, I guess the point is that there is no real metric to there is no perfect formula because it's a moving object. It's something that evolves. We're talking about student needs and their ever-changing needs. So you can try very hard to put the metric on it, but there is no absolute way to put a metric on it.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Superintendent, are you finished? Sorry.
I'm assuming Superintendent Cipriano is going to respond to that.
Thank you for giving the floor to Superintendent Cipriano. Go ahead, Cipriano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to reiterate what our director, Mr. Daly, said, that those ongoing assessments, we try our best to update programming to try and support a student's needs where they are, in special education, the students with IEPs, we developed that IEP that goes out in October, and then it goes out again in February, March time period to recognize the gains sometimes that have been accomplished in the first term in the fall, and to create new goals to try and meet those goals for that student. So it's the target keeps moving. We're always trying to create goals for students to meet success. Sorry, that's my dog. Someone just came to the door.
Vice Chair Dort, you have the floor.
Sure, Mr. Chair, thank you. Just a quick question here, and I see a section where we have a consultant, technology and science, and there's a whole list of stuff that particular consultant or that group of consultants do. So my question is, how many consultants do we have for this particular, and do we see a shortage in resources of either consultants, certs, or itinerants for this consultant technology science position?
Ask that for us, please. Superintendent Perkasson, could you please address that question for us? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair. In answer to your question, thanks for the question, Trustee Duarte. We have one consultant for the entire board. So is it enough of a position? Of course it is not. There is I would say probably a complement to this position within the Student Success Department, as per their presentation earlier on in the year. But certainly when it comes to technology for education and learning, we have a shortage. So there is one person, and that is certainly something that we would be hoping to supplement at some point, either through the new funding opportunity, or in the future to add to that. Staffing will be one of our concerns when we do share our findings and investigating around the STEM questions that you posed, as well as the iSTEM program. So it is adequate in the sense that we have not had any recent new science curriculum to deliver, but insofar as the technology piece, it's highly inadequate, especially in these times. And just as an example, and I think I shared with trustees recently that even with the D2L training, we went from 1,000 kind of hits in November, December to 60,000 in April. And that has been the shared job of all of the itinerants and consultants in curriculum, since they have all been trained to support our teachers when it comes to information technology. But it's been seriously wanting, and we have thankfully through our virtual platform been able to support our teachers, where we had 200 to 300 requests weekly during the first week of distance learning. We supported over 1,200 teachers in D2L learning, so it is highly inadequate to meet the needs in this environment, much less talk about any new initiatives or programming related to STEM learning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Perkasson. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, seeing if there are no other questions on 4.1, we will move on to 4.2. Superintendent Perkasson, you have the floor again. It's your report. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm so pleased this evening to introduce two of our staff to you. We have Renata Dean, who is our acting FSL consultant, and Kathy Irvine, who is our FSL itinerant. And they're going to be sharing with you initiatives in French as a second language. Trustees will recall this was a presentation originally scheduled for January, and we're pleased to bring it to you here this evening. So I'm going to turn you over to Renata and Kathy. Bonne chance.
Thank you, Superintendent Prakassan. Bonsoir, merci de nous avoir invités ce soir. Thank you so much for being present with us this evening and giving us the opportunity to speak with you. This is long overdue. We've been looking forward to this for quite some time. Je m'appelle Renata Dean. Je suis la conseillère pédagogique de français langue seconde à Halton Catholic District School Board. I am the acting FSL consultant for French as a second language, and I have with me this evening Kathy Irvine, who I'm going to turn it over to in just a moment. We have chosen to frame this evening's presentation as a celebration of French. And we've done so very deliberately because we feel that there is, in fact, lots to celebrate. And we want to make sure that you're part of that. So what we've planned for you this evening, after some brief comments from both myself and Kathy, is we are going to go ahead and present you with the world premiere of a film that we have had created in order to promote life as a French teacher in Halton Catholic. So we are really delighted to be able to share that with you this evening. Expected to tug on your heartstrings just a little bit because it was only several short weeks ago that we were in our classrooms and interacting with our students. So it's a really lovely piece for us to be able to share with you tonight. So one of the things that I would like to share with you before I do turn it over to Kathy is some of the pieces that we are celebrating together. Kathy and I will be more than happy to answer questions should you have any following the presentation of this film, but we don't want to lose our momentum. So one of the pieces that, of course, we would like to celebrate with you is the expansion of the French Immersion program. So it is expanding in a number of different ways currently. Next school year, so in September 2020, we will have the full complement of elementary French Immersion in Halton Catholic, which means we will have grades 1 through 8 at all of our sites. That means that in the fall, those grade 8 students will be receiving their option sheets for secondary. So we are starting to look ahead to a plan for secondary French immersion in Halton Catholic. We're looking at sites to accommodate. We're looking at what that expansion is going to look like. Now, you also know that we expanded with regard to grade 1. So we're also quite excited about that because it really does show that this program is popular. People want to be part of it. It is vibrant. It is a wonderful program to be part of in this region with this staff. So thank you for your involvement with that, most sincerely. We also have quite a hand in school improvement planning with an eye to FSL because of the sheer size of some of the FSL staffs, especially in our elementary sites. So that's a point of pride for us as well, that we can really focus on confidence and proficiency amongst our students. That's the goal. We also are working quite hard to build capacity amongst our FSL staff that aligns with student need, the need that's been discussed here tonight as part of a previous report, and also aligned with provincial initiatives. We are looking at summer opportunities for writing this year for our staff in order to sort of capitalize on the professional growth that's possible under these circumstances. We'd like to share expertise for teachers by having our staff prepare and deliver webinars for one another. We're also looking to inform the creation of resources for secondary immersion, since that is coming quite quickly. And we're also exploring the idea of our very first French immersion summer camp, virtual summer camp, a culture camp, opportunities to sort of be armchair historians and visit places that we wouldn't otherwise be able to go right now. We're also very happy to be able to work with our colleagues in human resources in order to support their initiatives with regard to recruitment. One of the pieces of this that we're quite looking forward to is the introduction of an additional qualification course for teachers who wish to pursue the teaching of FSL at Halton Catholic. Pending accreditation from the Ontario College of Teachers, we are set to offer this additional qualification beginning this summer. We also have an extensive program in place for mentorship and capacity building through the NTIP program for new FSL staff. And I really would be remiss if I did not highlight the role that Kathy Irvine plays. I, as the consultant, the acting consultant for FSL, have defined pieces that are part of my role. Part of what makes Kathy so spectacular is she has stepped into the role of FSL itinerant, which in our case means that between the two of us, we support over 200 French teachers between the elementary and secondary panels. We support teachers in all three programs, so that means grade 1 through 12 in core, extended, and immersion FSL. We have, as I like to put it, feet in a lot of different puddles. And Kathy really provides a lot of on-the-ground support. She is in classrooms very frequently, physically and virtually at this point. And we make sure that our teachers have what they need in order to feel confident and proficient themselves in the French language so that they can have a discernible impact on their students' confidence and proficiency as they learn the French language. So without more ado from me, I am going to turn this over to Kathy, after which I will look forward to joining you when you have seen our film. Merci.
Et merci beaucoup, Renata. Et bonsoir, mes amis. Je m'appelle Kathy Irvine, and I'm currently the itinerant French teacher for the HCDSB. Thank you for having us here this evening. And as well as what Renata has spoken about, other initiatives that we've taken on in the world of FSL include the creation of our new vibrant online community. We've been doing this through the creation of our new Twitter handle at HCDSB French, as well as our own Instagram account and our D2L, which is a space created for all of our core, extended, and immersion teachers. It's within these recent expansions of these social media platforms that we've been growing quite a community amongst our French teachers, where they've been sharing their successes, their initiatives, their ideas, and as well as they've had the opportunity for professional growth. We hope to maintain these communities and these social media platform expansions as we move forward. We've also been inviting our current secondary French students to volunteer at various events, and it's through volunteering that we've got to know them and visits to their school, and we hope to maintain these relationships that we've created throughout their secondary and post-secondary careers. Alumni of our FSL programs have also been invited to retain ties with the board through human resources and through an FSL outreach program where these graduates can be informed of opportunities and events available here at HCDSB within our French department. And as Renata mentioned, we've also been working with this company, Billet Media, creating these films that highlight and promote not just life in Halton, but also being a part of the FSL team here within our school board. And the welcome film that you're going to be watching this evening, we feel truly represents these diverse, inclusive Catholic communities within our board, and more specifically, again, within the French classrooms in our board. Watching this film tonight, we hope you can see how wonderful these French communities are, and during this prolonged period of school closure, it really does make us miss these communities, these classrooms, and of course the students. So Renata, Dean, and myself will be here following the video should you have any questions for us this evening. But in the meantime, please do enjoy. Et merci beaucoup.
The reasons I chose to work in Halton primarily stem from my experiences here as a student and the amazing experience that I had growing up. I was a product, basically, of the Halton Catholic School Board. I went to elementary school through the French Immersion program, as well as secondary school, and I really feel like it's provided me with an amazing education and a lot of opportunity.
Surtout, selon la foi, je dirais que les opportunités de parler aux élèves de leur foi en français, c'est important.
J'ai décidé d'enseigner au conseil scolaire catholique de Halton parce que je suis catholique et ça fait du sens de travailler dans un environnement catholique. J'aime beaucoup le fait que je peux inclure Jésus et inclure ma foi dans mon enseignement.
Of course, the curriculum is going to be the same no matter what board you're at, but just the culture and environment. Catholicism really is the center of all of the schools at the Halton board, and I love that, and that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to work here.
The global citizenship brought to us by learning and using a second language means that we form meaningful connections with other people that we meet. Our empathy is developed. The sense of compassion gets stronger. All of the pieces that we believe in as Catholic educators are improved by learning a second language.
I think also from a Catholic perspective, we see in our kids the image and likeness of God. And as a result, each of them has inherent dignity, and we bring that to our workplace every day.
Je suis devenue enseignante parce que j'adore être avec les enfants. J'adore jouer avec eux, on chante, on danse, on lit, on écrit. C'était presque même pas un choix de devenir professeur. C'était juste quelque chose qui était en moi. Ça fait une partie de moi d'enseigner.
J'ai commencé à enseigner le français parce qu'il y avait une grande manque dans notre conseil des professeurs en français et parce que j'aimerais enseigner ma langue maternelle à des étudiants qui aiment parler français et qui aiment être avec la langue.
What I like best about teaching for the Halton Catholic District School Board is the fact that I grew up in this board. I'm very familiar. And the fact that I get to maintain my connection with God through our daily prayer, through our liturgies. We get to keep that connection to our traditions. And then I get to share that with my students, not only the students, but the staff here. They're very supportive, very welcoming. We have a strong sense of community. And I felt that right from the very start when I started here in this board.
The French teachers at Halton Catholic District School Board, they teach their students about the world. They help their students to become global citizens. They help them to make those connections with themselves and with one another.
What I found when I moved here from Quebec is that people were welcoming. I found that it was quite easy to settle here. There was a lot of opportunities, a lot of growth. Being one of the few cities in Ontario that is still growing, I found it very welcoming, like I stated, and lots of opportunities. There's lots for us to do, and I found other people from Quebec that were also here that I can engage to and I became friends with, which made it very easy and comfortable for me to stay and work in this area.
I think the advantages of living in Halton, people would say it's geographic location really with regards to Toronto, but I think that really doesn't capture it. It's a beautiful place to live. In terms of what people are interested in, there's pretty much anything you want to do, you can do within 20 minutes of where you live in Halton. It's a combination of city and rural, the escarpment, it's a world biosphere. It's a beautiful place to live and a great place to work.
J'aime beaucoup Milton parce que c'est une ville multiculturelle et aussi c'est une ville familiale où je me sens en sécurité pour élever mes enfants.
I moved here 20 years ago to raise my family. We're the #1 city in the country and the #1 city to raise a family. We have great schools, and we hope that you will consider coming and working in one of our schools.
We have so many professional development which help us to continue learning and continue improving as a teacher, but also as a human being.
I think for us at Halton Catholic District School Board, we provide lots of opportunity for growth. The north of our board, Milton, Halton Hills, Georgetown, is doing nothing but growing right now. It's booming. It's a wonderful opportunity for people who perhaps want to raise a family here, for people who are exploring and seeing what might work for them.
We've got super supportive parents. We have great relationships with our other educational partners, both in the public board or colleges, universities. There's really there's really so many things available to our staff, both from a professional and a personal standpoint if they come.
Okay, trustees, are there any questions? Trustee O'Hearns or not that, you have the floor.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. All I want to say is I think I want to become a French teacher now. I'm super excited. I'm going to have to change careers. That was an amazing presentation. That was amazing talk that we've had with you two ladies. You really are full of energy, and seriously, you've got me hyped up for more French. I think I'm going to take more French lessons moving forward. And if French is a second language are in your hands, I have no worries. Thank you very much. Merci.
Thank you, Trustee O'Hearns or Nota. Trustee O'Brien, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Again, this presentation is just so good. It's what we really need right now. Question two, Director Daly. With the moving into high school of the first cohort, just curious. I mean, it was mentioned in the presentation, the written presentation. Is the accommodation piece sort of fitting together now with that? Just curious.
Secretary Daly, go ahead.
Sorry, could you ask that question again, Trustee O'Brien, just to make sure I understand it?
So the first cohort in 2 years, right, is going to be going into high school. Is that correct?
Correct, yes. September 2021.
So do we have a sort of a plan for what that will look like? And the reason is some of the ratepayers have been asking me that. I just want to know.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the clarification through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, we've certainly had some discussions around senior admin with regards to our high school destinations, looking at it regionally. Certainly considering how the boundary review and potential of a new school in Milton will play into that. So no decisions as of yet, but as Renata mentioned, our students, when we come back in September, will be thinking about option sheets for the following year. So certainly we'll have some more definitive answers by the fall at the latest.
Thank you. Do you have a follow-up question, Trustee O'Brien?
No, I do not.
All right, so then I'll move on to Trustee Murphy. Trustee Murphy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Renata and Kathy. I think it was a great presentation. I can speak a little French, but I learned it in a hockey dressing room, so I don't think you want me to use the French. I'd have to go back to confession, and my knees are getting quite rickety as it is. I think the sense of community seems to be very important.
Trustee Murphy, can you please confess your sin there? You were born in Quebec. You should. That's your native lung.
I was born in Notre-Dame-de-Grâce and grew up in Chateauguay. And
thank you.
For some reason, I was asked to leave. I'm not really sure why that was, but you don't hold that against me. So I think building a sense of community is fundamental to having an active and vibrant French program. And I think obviously you're on the right path. It's like planting trees. It's going to pay off years from now, and that's kind of what I wanted to ask the question on. Through the presentation, there was a few people that had mentioned that they were a product of our board and now are teaching in our board. Can you speak to the organic growth of French teachers within our board, and is that something the seeds we're planting today are actively pursuing with our graduates?
Go ahead.
Thank you for the question, Trustee Murphy. Mr. Chair, through you. I think that we have certainly started undertaking a number of different opportunities for us to maintain connections with the individuals who are products of our board. You'd be surprised, I think, at the number of people who have left and returned. for various reasons. And I think that there are a lot of things that we can do in order to promote the idea that coming home is a wonderful thing. Kathy, I think you can probably speak to that better than I can, because I know that you certainly have a plan in place that you're planning to implement.
Yes, thank you, Renata. I myself am a product of the board and a product of the French program in the Halton Catholic School Board, so that helps a lot when I'm talking to the students at the secondary sites. And with my visits there, I've spoken to them about how I had been in the same program as them and what I had done post-secondary and reasons as to why I was brought back here again. So I think the students that know where they want to go and that they have this French in their backpack, hearing an experience from someone who's been through the same program and the same schooling as them helps quite a bit reassure them what they'd like to do and where they would like to work. So just given the fact that I was grew up and was raised here, I think that's helping bring some of our students back again too. When we were running our grade 12 exams, the DELF exam, we were able to visit with them quite a bit, and I was able to talk to them on a more frequent basis, which allowed me to keep contact with them when they left secondary school.
Do you have a supplementary?
No, I don't. Thank you very much for your answer.
Thank you. Trustee Carabella?
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. Thank you for that great video, great presentation. It's really a joy after many years of hoping for an expansion, and here it is, and I know it addresses a lot of parents' wishes as well. So I guess going forward, next year, I don't know if Superintendent Percassin can talk about the planning for expanding further French immersion, and then for the elementary, and about the boundary reviews and plans like that. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think that's a very big question about future plans for expansion, and I think that's something that will involve a large picture conversation with regard to senior administration. I think that we're taking it right now 1 year at a time, and insofar as our further conversations in that regard, I think that definitely it is something that we are looking at senior administration with regard to boundary reviews and all of that. Perhaps I am not really the person to speak to that. I would certainly defer to Director Daly in that regard, but it's 1 year at a time at this point in time, and obviously we are a growing board, and we have issues with regard to space, and that we'll have to determine how we proceed in the future. From my end, from a programming perspective, we're always prepared to be supportive of whatever plans the board adopts, and providing the curriculum support for our teachers and students along with the resources in a responsible manner. And it is, for our department, something that we definitely celebrate, but I do understand that this is a very big topic and big picture conversation to have with regard to our future as our board continues to expand in some very key areas, and as it becomes obvious that further expansions of the French immersion program will have a lot to do with space and where those programs will be placed in the future. So I'll turn you over to Director Daly, with your permission, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Superintendent Percassin. That is a big question with lots of moving parts. And to be honest with trustees, I don't think I'm adequately prepared right now to talk about when those boundary reviews will come next year, but I can certainly bring an update prior to the close of this school year.
Thank you, Secretary Daly. Trustee Swan, you have the floor.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Again, I want to echo some of my colleagues again. Merci, a wonderful presentation from both Renata and Kathy. I certainly benefited from taking FSL courses for all 4 years. I participated in concours d'oratoire since I was in grade 7 and continued it ever since. The opportunity to speak French in my daily life seemed to become such a reality for me, and I can tell you that it's not only led me to learning such a wonderful language, it's helped me to find my own pathway, and I think that what makes this program such a wonderful, I guess, part of the Halton Catholic District School Board is that we're able to link really our faith with this program. I just want to maybe through direct this question to either Renata or Kathy. I think you mentioned that there was FSL Part 1, which is an OCT or soon-to-be OCT accredited additional qualification program. So I'm just wondering, when teachers actually do take this program, what grades would they be able to teach French at?
Thank you for your question, Trustee Swan. Merci de votre question, I should say. The AQ, the Part 1, any teacher who undertakes and completes this course successfully will be able to teach. What we do at HCDSB is we take a look at the teacher's level of proficiency, and that is based on CEFR principles, which are internationally recognized. So once we take a look at the capacity of the teacher to be able to use the French language, an assessment is made at that point, but the additional qualification does qualify a teacher to teach in any of the programs at any level, depending on the teacher's basic qualifications for primary, junior, intermediate, senior. Does that answer your question, Trustee?
Yes, that definitely answers my question. Thank you very much, Renata.
Thank you.
Trustee, do you have a supplementary?
I do not.
Thank you. Trustee DeRosa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Renata, Kathy, I am absolutely delighted by the presentation and the enthusiasm that you bring in support of this program. It is a very popular program, and I'm actually very proud to say that it's a program that's existed for a while in our board, and the challenges that we may have moving forward with respect to expansion and capacity, somehow we'll figure out a way. And in the hands of advocates such as you, I think we can do nothing but succeed. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you, Trustee DeRosa. Trustee Agnew, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to you both for that fantastic presentation. My question is pertaining to support for spec ed students or students with IEPs, whether they be in the core program or in Immersion. How does your role further support those students?
Thank you for your question, Trustee Agnew. I can start with this, and then Kathy, if you would like to contribute as well, you're more than welcome to do so. Kathy and myself provide the support for our FSL staff, as we said, in all programs, in all levels. We do not have the capacity at this point to be able to introduce EA support specifically for FSL, simply because we don't have the individuals who speak French who are able to take on those roles. As you know, it is occasionally challenging for us to fill positions with regard to FSL teachers. It would be wonderful if we could have EAs to support our special ed students, but at this time we do not. So Kathy and I really do our best. We certainly work quite closely with our other friends throughout program services. So we work with Superintendent Cipriano, we work with Superintendent McGillicuddy and their staffs as well, in order to ensure the best possible outcome for all of our students. So with regard to specific needs, one of the things that I can say
is we do our best to learn. Part of that has to do with we will undertake things like our own qualifications in special ed in order to better support those students. And we can certainly spend time, which we do at the school level, working with CERTs, making sure that we have dialogues with admin, parents, students, anyone that we can in order to best support our student learning in the context of FSL. We see the benefits to all students. We really do our best to ensure that the cognitive benefits that are present for all second language or foreign language learners are not lost for our special needs students. And we really do our best to be equitable in what we can do to support their needs. Kathy, would you like to contribute to that? Have you got something else to add there?
Just one small point, as our FSL classroom teachers, when the students with different needs are on IEPs, our French teachers do go and meet with the CERTs at the school level to talk about the different learning needs of each of the learners and how that looks in a French classroom, whether it be core, extended, or immersion. So they are looked at and talked to with specific to French with the French teacher and the CERT. Does that help?
Yeah, it's certainly helpful. I guess I'm looking ahead, and I'm looking at, I think the practice previously used to be, and please don't quote me on this, but I know that a number of students used to opt out from French, and I know that now the preference is that we have all of our students participate, unless there's other reasons, but we want them to be there. And with the expansion of our immersion program, I'm hoping that that's going to open up some additional opportunities for all students, and also for some students with special education needs. And I guess I'm still struggling a little bit with that support piece, knowing that we may not have French-speaking EAs or French-speaking CERTs. So I'm struggling with that. So I know that you are doing the best that you can from your perspective, but I just wonder system-wide what we need to look at to further support those spec ed students in that French program, whether it be again core or immersion, so that we can make sure that they are benefiting from that second language. So I think it's probably a difficult question for you to have to dive into, but just to give some more thought to around the table when we're looking at what kind of resources we need to make sure that we have a successful expansion of this program. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, trustees? If there are no other questions, I would like to take this opportunity to thank everybody, Superintendent Percassin, and the two consultants for the wonderful presentation, the wonderful film. So thank you. I will now move on to agenda item number 5, delegations. There are no delegations, so we'll move on to agenda item 6.1, minutes of the May 3rd, 2020 regular board meeting. Is there any additions, deletions, or errors in the minutes? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve them?
Duarte.
Trustee Dort, seconded by?
DeRosa.
Trustee DeRosa I will do a roll call. Trustee DeRosa?
In favor.
Trustee O'Brien?
In favor.
Trustee Carabella?
In favor.
Trustee Dort?
In favor.
Trustee Guzzo?
In favor.
Trustee Agnew?
In favor.
Trustee O'Hearn Zernota?
In favor?
Trustee Murphy?
In favor.
Trustee Ian Tomasi against. Trustee Caratao?
Abstain.
Trustee Swan?
In favor.
Trustee Bambra?
In favor.
Motion passes. Business arising from the previous meeting, summary of outstanding items. A list of outstanding items is provided for your information. Are there any questions pertaining to the summary of outstanding items? Seeing none, I'll move on to action items 8.1, HCDSB procedural bylaws. Trustee Carabella, you have a motion on the floor, or you've provided a motion, notice of motion. Can you speak to this particular motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes. Are we going to read out the motion first and have it seconded, or do I start?
I can read that out, or if you wish, you can read the motion as well. Which do you prefer?
You may read it out.
Be it resolved that resolution P21/20 from the Policy Committee, which reads that a bylaw working committee be struck involving all trustees, the director of the board and other superintendents as resource to meet a half hour prior to every policy meeting prior to the June 9th, 2020 review of bylaws. A third party will be brought at the agreement of trustees in to advise as required, be brought to the May 19th regular board meeting, and establish the working committee review the Halton Catholic District School Board procedure bylaw as an ad hoc standing bylaw review committee comprising of all trustees and be approved. Trustee Carabella, please lead us in the discussion.
Okay, so I move it. Would I have a seconder?
Did I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Right. Trustee O'Brien, seconded.
Thank you.
Any discussions?
Thank you.
Trustee, yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I may speak to the motion. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify too that I'm proposing an ad hoc committee and not the standing committee, which is in the motion. So I would start by saying everyone can agree that our procedural bylaws are very important, are key to governing well at Halton Catholic District School Board, for which we have been elected. The motion I have put forward has the only goal of ratifying or formalizing the current bylaw working committee as an ad hoc committee for the same purpose of reviewing and updating the Halton Catholic District School Board procedural bylaws as per section 7.2.1 of our bylaws, which states that an ad hoc committee may be established with the approval of the majority of the members of the board for any purpose or need of the board and will convene as required. Each ad hoc committee will report directly to the board. When its mandate is completed, the ad hoc committee will step down. So at our policy meeting with the resolution P2120 was passed at the policy meeting and not by the board. So we were all together there at the policy meeting and we voted, but the next step of sending it to the board for approval and ratification was missed. Our current bylaw review committee task is quite large. It has evolved into an ongoing going over the complete bylaws, one section at a time, and will still continue for months and should come to the board table to be established as an ad hoc committee. And I'm going to refer to section 2.4 of our bylaws, which states that an ad hoc committee means a committee where trustees may, from time to time, form working groups to address specific issues which shall report to the Board of Trustees. Membership may include trustees and staff and other individuals as appropriate. So the ad hoc committee best reflects the process we are currently going through. The current bylaw review committee was struck at the policy meeting, but the only place trustees can strike a committee is at the board table. So I'm asking my fellow trustees to complete the progress we have begun by simply formalizing our working committee, of which there is no definition in our bylaws, into an ad hoc bylaw review committee. Thank you.
I believe, Trustee O'Brien, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. The bylaw review has been a great process and is moving toward a great finish, I feel. This is all the reason why we need to safeguard this good work. Bylaw 14.2 states under review process, the bylaws of the Halton Catholic District School Board shall be reviewed every 4 years by the board. This is the board. This is the legal entity which governs all our schools, staff, programs, and operations. If we take the time to simply ratify this committee now, it will never come back to haunt us that we did not follow due diligence in forming our bylaw review process committee.
Thank you, Trustee O'Brien. Trustee Dort, you have the floor.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I have two parts to my time here. One is regarding this thing and regarding this discussion, and one is regarding the explanatory note. I would like to know from Secretary Daly why the explanatory note was not part of the package and given so that it would give all the trustees enough time to take a look at this and come prepared to have this great discussion. I, as Vice Chair, was copied on this email, so I'm wondering if this is my job in future moving forward to make sure that all the trustees get such explanatory notes. It should have been part of the package. So my first part is I would like an answer to this, why it was not done in the first place. And the second part is I will bring it as a follow-up question.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Sorry.
Before I pass it over to you, so the protocol that's established in our bylaws is that the information gets sent to the secretary, at which time, because they prepare the package. So I will now pass it on to Secretary Daly to address your question.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Vice Chair Dwart, you're correct. I was copied on that same email. I really don't have an explanation as to why it didn't go on the draft agenda. It was a mistake on my part. I apologize to the trustees that they did not have the information that they needed to have a fulsome discussion for this.
Thank you,
Having said that, from a point of order, that has already been passed. We've already addressed that. The item is on the agenda under 8.1. We're discussing it now. So if you have a follow-up and it's a different question, then I will address it. If not, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you for that. I still had to get that thing cleared because as Vice Chair, I got copied on it. It's my responsibility too. So this is pertinent to this question here. It's up on for discussion. There is no requirement under the Education Act to have a bylaw committee. However, there maybe one or two boards around us that have struck a bylaw committee, and it's defined and it's an ongoing committee which is there. Our bylaws state that bylaw changes are to be dealt with in policies. So at the January 14th meeting, we all of us around the table unanimously agreed to have the bylaws reviewed and come to the meeting 30 minutes before the meeting. We are in meeting number 5, or if I'm not mistaken, meeting number 6. And we are still discussing and debating the same item. We are going around and around in circles. My question here is, why have we not taken the initiative and why have we not discussed this item at meeting number 1 and 2 and laid this issue to rest? Why are we waiting to bring it to this point? This is not an effective use of my time. I'm sorry to say, with due respect to Trustee Carabella and my fellow trustees around, I'm not happy that this is coming for discussion at this point in time. It should have been discussed at meeting number 1 or 2 and laid to rest. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Dort. Trustee Caratal, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to, on behalf of all three of us student trustees, ask a question of clarification to Trustee Carabella. She did mention during her explanation that other parties appropriate may be added or in attendance to the policy committee, not the policy committee, the bylaw working committee. I'd just like to clarify to ensure that that includes student trustees and will continue to include student trustees, perhaps if the bylaw committee returns for next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Caratal. Trustee Agnew, you have the floor.
Oh, should I address that we would include student trustees?
Trustee Carabella, did you wish to address that particular question?
Thank you. He did ask me, so thank you through you, Mr. Chair. Certainly, student trustees can be invited. I don't know the process myself. It's a good suggestion.
and I think you've been invited to many other events, so I'd be for it.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Trustee Carabella.
Thank you, student trustee. Vice Chair Duart, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, my question is not answered. My question was, why have we been waiting till this time to address this issue? My question was, meeting number 1 or 2 should have been the deciding time.
Okay, so that question is of Trustee Carabella. You want Trustee Carabella to answer that question?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So Trustee Carabella, you have the floor. Can you please respond to Vice Chair Duart?
Okay, thank you. To you, Mr. Chair, to Trustee Duart. I don't know. It's something that was on my mind, and I did bring it up several times. And as you know, I am trying to follow the bylaws, and there was no definition of working committee. We first had it in policy meeting that first time, and it was as a discussion item. And then because of COVID, we now have our private meetings. It's not open to the public. It's just evolved. People are calling it different things. And I think as an ad hoc committee going forward now, it will be seeking legal advice, and things should come to the committee. I just think that as an ad hoc committee, it's very formal. There's minutes that will be taken. Those become legal, and it can protect the board. I think we'll be making some other decisions, and I think that the ad hoc committee is a better place for these things. And again, I just go back to saying that everything that the policy committee does should be referred to the board. If trust.
We're cut off there. Trustee Carabella, can you just give us the last part of your comment?
I just said that as at the policy committee, I just refer back to my opening statement. In the policy committee, we make decisions, but those decisions actually have to be ratified at the board. That's why I'm bringing this to the board as an ask that we just continue the process. I think it can be quite seamless and we can get going, but that we will be official.
Trustee Carabella. Trustee Agnew, you have the floor.
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'm just reiterating a little bit of what Trustee Duarte said. I think the process has run well. I'm not sure why we're waiting now until 6 meetings to make this change. I believe that we have been extremely diligent in the process we've been going through. It's been going well. We've been making appropriate changes. The discussion has been good. I don't know that we are not adhering to what we should be doing. I believe everything is above board, and any decisions that we do make are going to be vetted and will come to the board for approval. So we are not skipping a step there. So I can't see why we need to change what we've been doing. We all agreed on this unanimously, and it's been working very well. So I just feel that we should be able to continue as we have started and not lose any time. And yeah, I think we're doing fine with it.
Yeah, but that's a...
Yeah.
That's a staff.
Thank you, Trustee Agnew. Did you wish Trustee Carabella to respond to your inquiry?
No, I don't really have an inquiry. It's just a comment. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Trustee DeRosa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to reference some of the comments that my colleague Trustee Duarte mentioned as to why we have come so late in this process to bring this up. The fact of the matter is that this issue has been repeatedly talked about, and it's a little bit unfortunate that we're getting to it this late. But still, the importance of this item in terms of formalizing a
So you're off. Can you Turn your microphone on, Trustee DeRosa, please.
My apologies. I should be looking at my microphone 100% of the time because it keeps flipping off. So, look, in very few words, I'd like to pass on the following: that this issue has been talked about repeatedly and about taking action right from the beginning. This is Trustee Duarte makes a point. I don't disagree with him that we're late in dealing with this thing, but it's not because out of the will that it was not presented in the past. So we are where we are. We have to formalize this process. We have to formalize this committee to avoid future problems, potential problems. So what we're doing here is not interfering in the progression of what's taken place. We're not suggesting by any stretch of the imagination that we go back to square one. It is what it is, but to proceed without formalization of the actual committee and to proceed without rules and regs with respect to formalized minutes and other things is dangerous. It exposes the board to potential problems later on. So we owe it to ourselves to set this thing right and then proceed with what on the road that we've been set on. My issue with the process, I've put behind me. I've expressed it many times, but I think in erring on the side of caution, we need to formalize this committee and then.
Cut off again, Trustee DeRosa. You're going to have to put your mic on again.
All right. I don't know where I left off, but I said in the interest of formalizing the process, we need to move on with this because of the importance of the work that this committee is doing. We just can't proceed without the formalization of it. I think we expose ourselves, we expose the board for future problems. And I'm not suggesting by any stretch of the imagination that we turn back the clock because that's not practical to do. I wish I could turn back the clock personally, but we can't do it. But to proceed without formalization of this committee is just fraught with danger in my view and exposure of the board. So I don't know what the problem is. Why there's so much resistance.
Thank you, Trustee DeRosa.
Thank you.
Trustee Guzzo, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. First off, you can't really go back in time when you miss 3 of the 6 meetings. So it's kind of hard to say that the process.
Yeah, with all due respect,
I have the floor, Mr. I trust you.
So Trustee Guzzo has the floor. I'm going to have to. No. You've had 4 minutes. So Trustee Guzzo, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Antomasi. The other point is there's been some comments, and I want to be really clear and set the record straight. None of the bylaws have been violated in this. We are not actually making changes. We are making recommendations like any other process that this board has followed in regards to any of the policies. We are simply trying to slim down the process so when it does come to the policy table, that we all have a better handle of what we are looking at to make changes. The formalized process is it has to come to the June policy meeting, and that will probably be delayed, where a fulsome review will be done. If there are any major changes, I believe it will go out for stakeholder feedback. Then at that point, it still has to go to the board for final approval. The fact that there are comments and things that are being alluded to is very unfortunate. To formalize the process, there has been nothing that has been done, that has been changed, that by putting it, and I'm assuming that it's putting it in the public eye, which is what Trustee Carabella is really after. I'm not sure why we skirt around things and why people aren't just forthcoming on what they're looking for, but the formalization of a problem, this didn't come up 6 meetings ago. This came up 3 meetings ago, and this came up on the May board meeting when Trustee Carabella gave notice of motion that this was a problem. So I just want to be really clear that there has been nothing that has been violated. We have had several discussions at that table as a group, when it first came up in February, which was where we decided collectively to form a group to work on this, to be preemptive of the June meeting, and everybody agreed there. Everybody was on the same page. I had actually suggested anybody who was interested when I handed over the gavel. Not only that, in subsequent meetings after that, we also addressed if this process was working for everybody. And there was a majority that said that this process was working. So to allude now that we haven't formalized the process or to insinuate that something is not being done is very unfortunate, and it almost seems a bit grandstanding.
Thank you, Trustee Guzzo. Trustee DeRosa, you have a supplementary. You've got 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want to deal in innuendos and veiled accusations because this is not what it's about. This is an opportunity, and what's being requested by Trustee Carabella is to formalize a process. It is not a big stretch. It is there's no obvious reasons why we shouldn't do this, and then proceed with what we have undertaken 3 meetings ago. Okay. With respect to absences, there were reasons, they were excused. I've expressed my own personal opinion about the process that was engendered and the problem I had with it. And I still feel the same way. We have bylaws. The bylaws belong to the board. They are the rules of engagement, and they have to be formalized with proper minutes and proper rules. So this is the opportunity to do that now, and I would suggest that we do that. Thank you.
Trustee O'Hearn-Zernata, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Chair. To Trustee Carabella, just curious, you mentioned about formalizing it and making it an ad hoc as opposed to a standing committee. What is your rationale behind that suggestion there? Why ad hoc as opposed to standing committee?
May I have the floor, Mr. Chair?
So hang on, we're trying to get rid of some static here.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead. Trustee Carabella, can you please respond to Trustee O'Hearn-Zernata's question?
Yes, thank you. To you, Mr. Chair. There's just a difference in the definitions. So an ad hoc committee is something that we are going to need from time to time to address a specific issue and report to the board. So in this case, we're doing our procedural bylaws, and that's a specific issue. It has a start date and an end date when we finish the review over 4 years. A standing committee is defined in our bylaws as 2.22, and it says it's a committee that's formed to deal with long-standing and ongoing issues relating to decision-making responsibilities of the Board of Trustees that will periodically bring a recommendation to the board. And the examples were the Policy Committee, the Salary and Bargaining Advisory Committee, something that's always going to be like ongoing. So that's the difference. I used in the motion both because I was trying to follow the bylaws and the way they were phrased. And you know, it's a learning process. It's great that we're going through the bylaws and learning more and more. And I think that is one reason why, as I'm studying and learning it more and more, that I brought it forward. That's all. I don't think there.
Before I turn, do you have a supplementary, Trustee O'Hearn-Zernata?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So thank you for that answer. And I guess it brings me to a point where the bylaws are governing our board, and the interpretation, a standing committee could also be considered. These bylaws go up for review every 4 years. So it's not something that just happens from time to time. It's an ongoing, long-standing committee. So standing committee could also be put in its place, which leads me to my second comment, if you would let me, Mr. Chair.
I haven't stopped you.
Good, thank you. Just checking. Just want to make sure that I'm hearing all kinds of different opinions, and really that leads me down the lane of we've been doing this for a long period of time. Perception is key. These are our bylaws.
Can you, Trustee O'Hearn-Zernota, we're not getting your voice. Trustee O'Hearn-Zernota, are you there? Trustee O'Hearn-Zernota, going once? All right, so perhaps what I can do in the interim, just one clarification, point of clarification while we wait for Trustee O'Hearn-Zernota. Bylaws do not go out for stakeholder feedback. Bylaws belong to the board. They stay with the board, and we're the people that, we're the body that revises them, updates them, so it's within our purview. Trustee O'Hearn-Zernota, are you there?
We lost her.
All right, so I'll move on to Trustee Agnew. You have the floor.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, a question to Trustee DeRosa. It's a couple of times now that you've commented our need to follow proper rules and proper minutes. So I just need an understanding of what are the rules that we're not following as they pertain to our bylaws. Is there somewhere in there that says we need to be taking minutes, or what rules are we breaking? Because that's there's comments that the process we've been using is dangerous. So I'd like to understand more why it's dangerous and what are these rules we're not following.
Trustee DeRosa, do you want to respond to that inquiry?
Well, I'll comment to that, and hopefully I can make myself a little clearer. The bylaws are the rules of engagement for the board. Okay. As such, they are the ownership of the board. The board owns the bylaws. There was an agreement during policy committee, if I remember correctly, and I will be corrected on that, that initially what was proposed was a subcommittee of X number of trustees, not the full complement of trustees. There was a discussion over the fact that all trustees needed to be part of it. It was agreed, and that it should come together as a separate committee. That's my recollection. That process never got finalized. We went on to hold half-hour meetings without minutes at the beginning, without really any formal structure, and we ended up where we are today. So I would like to take it back to the original discussion that where we agreed that all trustees would be part of it, and that we would formalize the committee separate and away from the policy committee. That has not been done. And the danger in not having that is in fact that we have proceeded now for a couple of meetings, at least one which I have attended, where formal minutes were debated as to whether we should take them or not. Well, to me, that's not a debate. It's a foregone conclusion that when 7 trustees get together to discuss important issues such as bylaws in particular, minutes have to be taken. So that's where my concern is that we still, after 6 meetings, still have not formalized this process. We're still not sure whether we're taking minutes or not. And in fact, redlining the actual bylaws themselves on a word processor, it does not constitute taking minutes. Minutes is about debate, minutes is about vote, and minutes is about recording those votes. None of that has happened. And I'm a little bit apprehensive about a process that has been allowed to go this far without that happening on an important issue as it is. So, dangerous, maybe it's the wrong word. I'm apprehensive that at some point in time, this is going to get the board into some trouble. I can't see what it is presently, but because it's not a formalized process, it's fraught with problems. So that's my word of caution. My words are not accusatory. My words, it's just to reflect on the process that's taking place right now. And again, I reiterate, I don't understand what the problem is with passing a motion like this, right? To just formalize it and then get on with the work. I'm really.
Trustee DeRosa, you've had your 3 minutes. So
thank you very much,
Trustee. Thank you, Trustee O'Hearn-Zernota. I believe you're back online. Can you please continue with your question?
I would. Thank you very much to you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to say it was my fault, but the computer just ran out of power and died in my middle of speech. So I apologize to everybody. All I was going to say is that if we're going back and forth with this is the perception, this is what we believe to be done, I think it needs to be vetted for someone smarter than me as it regards to bylaws and trouble and liability, that kind of thing. So whether that's Oxta, whether that's a lawyer, I'm not quite sure, but we need to finally put this baby to bed and move forward so we can get some things done.
That note, I will turn over to Trustee Agnew. You were in queue, and yours is a supplementary as well, so you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. I'm just trying to understand why we are addressing this as not being a formalized process. Because I do believe that there are still steps that will come after this, after we review and make recommendations that we will follow the formal process. So currently we are reviewing the bylaws and then they will come through to policy and there'll be a discussion there and then it will come to the board for approval. So I'm just not sure how we are not following a formal process and we keep referring to the need to formalize. Again, you know, we've had a great process going. Everyone agreed to it. It's been working well. So I'm challenged with the reference that we keep saying that we're not following proper rules and we need to formalize, because I haven't seen anything in the bylaws or anything that puts me in any direction that we are not doing this the right way. So I don't understand why we can't just continue as such.
Your comments, Trustee Agnew. Trustee Murphy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. I think that everybody has the best intentions. I think that everybody is participating in the bylaw review. I think it's also, though, safe to say that our bylaws allow for a very wide interpretation, and kind of the discussions we're seeing tonight, I think, are evident of that. To me, it could be viewed as a gray area. So I've asked this question quite a few times. So I asked Nick Milanetti, I've asked Pat Daly from Hamilton, I asked the lawyer at the trustee presentation we were at, and I asked Marion Howell the same question. At what point can trustees get together more than the majority in quorum and it be not dictated as quorum? And basically all of them said the same thing. It's a very slippery slope. It's a tricky area, because if it's viewed that you're progressing the business of the board, therefore it has to be held in public with recording secretary. So are we progressing the business of the board by reviewing bylaws and making suggestions? I can hear great arguments for both sides, and you're both right. You know, the reality is you need an integrity commissioner or a lawyer to rule on it. So this is the way I'm looking at it. So if that's the case, that both sides have valid arguments, which I think they do, when is the business of the board being constituted? When it's voted on, when the idea is brought forward, when it's discussed, when it's debated? I don't know. So the way I look at it, if this motion is a way of hedging our bets and protecting ourselves and following what we're supposed to be doing and the laws that we're required to. To me, it's good housekeeping. There's no downside because it's not going to impact the policy, the bylaw review committee. What we're doing, there's not going to be any impact at all. It's going to move forward as it is. So then, it's a good idea, in my opinion. It's a good idea to hedge our bets. I think moving forward, we have this discussion all the time. We had it again regarding the director's appraisal. We need to get some feedback from an integrity commissioner or a lawyer. Be very clear what constitutes the board doing business or moving the business of the board forward. And really the feedback that I had gotten, again, this is informal, they told me that really there's almost no situations where you can meet in quorum that it doesn't constitute a public meeting. So that's my opinion, and we can take it for what it's worth.
So thank you, Trustee Murphy. Thanks for your insights and your comments. There is one item that it's spelled out in our bylaws 2.29. The director can set up a working committee whereby he can invite trustees. If that's the process we use for our bylaw review, that would have been fine, but that's not what happened. What happened was policy struck a committee to review the bylaws. It's very clear in our bylaws that only the board can strike a committee to review the bylaws every 4 years. Having said all of that, there is the valid point that we did proceed. There was no disagreement on the process that was being followed. So we have before us a motion which has been put to the process. So right now I will take it to a vote. So we have a mover. It was moved by Trustee Carabella, seconded by Trustee O'Brien. So I will now take a vote on the motion that's before you, which really talks about formalizing the process through an ad hoc committee. As such, Trustee DeRosa, can you please, how do you vote?
I vote in favor of formalizing the committee.
All right, thank you. Trustee O'Brien?
In favor.
Trustee Carabella?
In favor.
Trustee Duert?
Opposed.
Trustee Guzzo?
Opposed.
Trustee Agnew?
Opposed.
Trustee O'Hearn Zanota?
Abstain, as I'd like it vetted.
Abstain. Trustee Murphy?
In favor.
Trustee Caratao?
I also abstain.
Trustee Swan?
I will abstain.
Trustee Bambra?
In favor.
Trustee Bambra in favor. I'm also in favor. Motion carries. We will strike a formal ad hoc committee so as to make it formal.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am. Or yes, Trustee Guzzo.
You keep making mention of, I keep hearing formalized committee. Formalizing the committee, are we saying, I just want to be clear what that means. An ad hoc committee isn't in public purview. Minutes are only taken, and minutes are taken generally. So unless there's actually action items that are done or anything, the only thing that has been done during these meetings is that there's recommendations brought forward, and we have Janine who's actually been keeping track of those. So I just want to be clear that when we talk about formalize, what the expectation is.
Right. So who are you asking that question of?
I'm asking you, Mr. Chair. You are the one who knows all the policies and is versed on our bylaws.
So I've already stated my position. I've taken it to a vote. The motion carried.
Discussion.
As such, that particular ad hoc committee is now formally struck. We will proceed as we have been for the past 4 months. So this matter is closed. Thank you very much. I will now move on to agenda item 8.2, policy I-15, school name selection. Trustee Guzzo, can you please read the motion?
I just need a minute.
Sorry. So hold that thought. Can I have a motion to move beyond 10 o'clock?
Duart.
Moved by Trustee Duart, seconded by Trustee O'Brien. Is there any objection? I hear no objections. Or would you like me to take it to a vote? Recorded vote.
No objections. Let's keep going.
I think just keep going.
Thank you, trustees. Point 2, policy I-15.
I'm sorry, did you want me to go now, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
Be it resolved that the Halton Catholic District School Board accept the recommendation of the Policy Committee that policy I-15 school name selection be approved as amended.
Can I have a seconder?
I second it.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Trustee Carabella.
Trustee Carabella, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion? No discussion? I will take a vote. Trustee DeRosa?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I was in favor.
All right, Trustee O'Brien?
In favor.
Trustee Carabella?
In favor.
Trustee Duart?
In favor.
Trustee Guzzo?
In favor.
Trustee Agnew?
In favor.
Trustee Zernota?
In favor.
Trustee Murphy?
In favor.
Trustee Caratal?
In favor.
Trustee Swan?
In favor.
Trustee Bambra?
In favor.
Motion carries. Agenda item 8.3, policy I-42, out-of-province staff travel. Trustee Guzzo, please read the motion.
Be it resolved that the Halton Catholic District School Board accept the recommendation of the Policy Committee that policy I-42, out-of-province staff be approved as reviewed.
Can I have a seconder to that motion?
I will second it.
Trustee O'Brien, is there any discussion? Trustee Carabella, you have the floor.
Thank you. Through Mr. Chair, could we scroll down to under the requirements, please? Thank you. And it just talks about, I know it was at policy and I missed just asking this question, that when someone wants to travel out of the province, but within Canada then US, do they still need the 60 days notice? And also, could that be brought to the Board of Trustees as well?
So is that the first bullet under requirements?
Yes.
All right. Director Daly?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm looking at the 1, 2, 3. The fifth bullet says a request to travel out of province must be submitted at least 60 days prior to the date of departure.
Right. So there's a little bit of a contradiction.
So what are you proposing, Trustee Carabella? Do you have a proposed change?
I just think it would be could come to the Board of Trustees for approval as well, or come to the Board of Trustees for information.
So it's either the director that gives the approval or it comes to the board for approval, not both.
Right, so I'd like to include that it does go to the trustees for approval as well.
All right, can I have a seconder to amend the wording on that particular policy I-42?
Duart.
Trustee Duart. All right, so then I'll take it to a vote. Is there any discussion? Seeing there's no discussion, I will take it to a vote. Trustee DeRosa?
In favor.
Excuse me. So Secretary Daly wishes to address this?
Sorry, I just wanted to understand the change we're making. So are we saying that if there is a travel outside of the province, we're coming to the board 60 days in advance and asking for the board to approve it?
Well, that's the process with everything.
Well, outside Canada, it's outside the. Is that what you're proposing, Trustee Carabella?
I am. Perhaps the 60 days. I don't know if it's not as complicated to go outside of the province and the U.S. As it is international. So maybe there's not as much advance notice, but I think it could be good for us to know to approve that.
Trustee Agnew, did you want to respond to that, Director Daly? Trustee Agnew, you have the floor.
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. To Trustee Carabella, I'm just curious why we feel we need to make that change. I'm in favor of the second bullet when it refers to outside of Canada and the U.S. Assuming international travel is a much bigger deal. But when we're looking at things like possibly just crossing into Quebec or going to Newfoundland or crossing the border into Buffalo, I'm just not sure why approval from the Director of Education isn't adequate enough, why that would need to come to the Board of Trustees, especially with that much notice. I have to assume, and I may not be right in assuming this, but I have to assume that there's a lot more effort put into travel plans when they come to outside of Canada and the U.S., whereas I think that there might be things or travel that is required out of province, but within Canada and the U.S., that may happen without the ability of a 60-day notice. So I'm just not clear why we feel for that particular piece we need to have that come to us for approval.
Perhaps I can, Secretary Daly, you want to respond to that? Go ahead.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm responding to Trustee Agnew's point, but I mean, there is an expectation that we're traveling to Quebec to do French recruiting, that we're traveling to New Brunswick to do French recruiting. So I guess I don't understand why that would need to be approved by trustees when it's inside the country. I understand international travel. I understand the costs involved. I guess I just don't understand why trustees would not have enough faith in me to approve a trip to a neighboring or even not neighboring province.
So follow up, Mr. Chair?
You have a follow-up. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, I couldn't hear there for a second. Am I okay for a follow-up, Mr. Chair?
Yes, you do.
Thank you so much. So yes, I'm just reiterating what Director Daly had said. So my question, I think, was more so to Trustee Carabella for bringing this forward, just wanting to understand a little bit more about the rationale as to why, again, further to what Director Daly said, that we wouldn't be able to trust in the director's judgment when it comes to something like a simple out-of-province or within Canada and the U.S. travel. I'm just not understanding why that would need to come to the Board of Trustees. So can you just help me understand your justification for that?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Trustee. Oh, do I have the floor, Mr.
The floor,
Chair?
go ahead.
So thank you for that. I don't think, as we've often said, we trust, and it's more that it comes to us, that we know that it's going on. I didn't really actually think of going out of province for recruiting staff. I was thinking more of the conferences that are attended. So it's just part of that process of coming for approval that we know about it, and we usually always approve. So I just put that out there.
So if I may, just want to add one comment. So I think perhaps this speaks to the fact that since we approve out of province travel for students, And because the students have principals and vice principals, department heads and teachers, then it would only stand to reason that the two be aligned. So I would think that that's how that's addressed. Secretary Daly, go ahead.
I think trustees only approve out-of-province trips if they're extended trips. So the trip to Quebec City or Montreal is not approved by trustees. If it's a 3 or 4 day trip, it's brought to trustees as information.
Who's got the floor next? Follow up?
I believe I do.
Trustee O'Brien, yes, you do. Go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Trustee Carabella, I'm finding this a little restrictive myself, considering that we as trustees travel out of province, and I don't know. I believe we don't need to be approved by the board. So I wonder if we want to put the same restrictions on teachers that we wouldn't put on ourselves. So I don't think I could support that.
All right, so we had started, is there any other questions? If there is no other questions,
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Chair.
So hang on, is he having the floor? All right, you have the floor, Trustee DeRosa.
Thank you. I'm going to take 2 steps back, because when I voted in favor of this, what I had in mind was just international travel. And frankly speaking, I even doubt that we should have a hand in that as well. This is all about, frankly, what do we spend every year on the basis of this? Are we trying to approve, $2,500, or are we trying to approve $25,000 or $50,000? And even at that, if it was in that realm of magnitude, I think that this is really diving deep into operations. So I'd like to take my vote again. Okay?
Consider your vote, is that what you're saying?
Go around again, and I'll vote again on this.
All right, but we haven't started to vote on it.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, I'm sorry.
I am, sorry, I'm getting confused now.
Yeah.
All right, so there is a seconder to the motion sorry, Trustee Guzzo, you have the floor. My apologies.
Thank you. I have a question for Trustee Carabella. Are there mitigating circumstances that would all of a sudden require you to make a change on a policy that the staff didn't even think needed to be changed? It's a policy that would have been in effect during your first term as trustee. So I'm just wondering, because you're asking for a change in something that there's been nothing brought forward that would suggest that when teachers are going to better themselves and to attend conferences for the benefit of our students, why we would all of a sudden put restrictions on it.
Who are you at? Trustee Carabella to respond to that. Trustee Guzzo, my apologies. Everything is breaking up here. I can't hear.
My question was directed at Trustee Carabella. She's the one who's put the...
Yes, that's correct. Okay, thank you. So Trustee Carabella, can you please address that?
Yeah, there are no mitigating or hidden reasons. Things come to policy, then they come to the board table for the vote. Something I just asked and reflected on. We can... That's all. Thank you.
Let me just address what, can I have the, let me address one word. Perhaps the word USA in that first bullet is what's convoluting or is confusing what it is that should say. So if we were to change it to staff requesting to travel out of province but within Canada, and remove USA shall require approval from the Director of Education. Would that be sufficient? Because USA is addressed in the second bullet.
Mr. Chair, I have my hand up.
Well, Trustee Guzzo, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, much appreciated. I don't think I think we've already had discussion, and I don't think anybody has brought forward a suggestion. I think Trustee Carabello was very clear with what her ask was, and I think we should just take a vote.
Vote. Let's start.
Mr. Chair, would you allow me another question?
You can have another question, Trustee DeRosa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is our Superintendent of Finance available? I'd like to get an idea of what type of, how much we spend on travel every year.
Yes, let me call on Superintendent Lofts. Superintendent Lofts, can you please address that inquiry, please?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, I wouldn't have that information at this point in time. I really don't have an answer for you as to what the actual costs were. And out of country, within country, basically I guess travel costs related to this policy.
Yeah. I mean, notionally, I just in terms of materiality, I don't think it's probably, in comparison to other expenditures, it's probably not, and I'm just going on gut feeling here, it's not probably an earth-shattering number. Something well within the purview of the director.
Thank you, Trustee DeRosa. Trustee Guzzo, do you have anything else to say, or would you like me to continue on to take it to a vote? No, sorry. Trustee Swan, you have the floor.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I just need to ask clarification, actually, to you. So this vote, are we taking a vote for Trustee Carabella's change to this policy, or are we taking it to? I'm just confused on what this vote is actually going to be about.
Yeah, I haven't stated. So there was a motion on the floor from Trustee Carabella to change the wording from Director of Education to the Board of Trustees. So that was the vote that was started. So she had a seconder, so we now take it to a vote.
Okay, thank you.
Is that understood?
Yes.
All right, very good. So Trustee DeRosa.
We're voting to make the change that Trustee Carabella recommended?
That's correct.
I vote to leave the things the way they are.
All right. Trustee O'Brien?
Opposed.
Trustee Carabella?
In favor.
Trustee Dort?
Opposed.
Trustee Guzzo?
Opposed.
Trustee Agnew?
Opposed?
Trustee Zernota?
Opposed?
Trustee Murphy?
Opposed.
Trustee Caratal?
Opposed.
Trustee Swan?
Opposed.
Trustee Brambra?
Opposed.
Motion fails. So the policy I-42, we will now approve it formally. So we have a mover in Trustee Guzzo. We have a second. Who was the seconder on that motion?
Trustee O'Brien.
Trustee O'Brien. Can we call all in favor? Or would you like an individual vote? Or recorded vote, sorry.
Recorded, please.
All right, so Trustee DeRosa, our policy stays as written.
In favor.
Trustee O'Brien?
In favor.
Trustee Carabella?
I'll vote in favor. Thank you.
Trustee Guzzo?
In favor.
Trustee Agnew?
In favor.
Trustee O'Hearn Zernota?
In favor?
Trustee Caratal?
In favor.
Trustee Swan?
In favor.
Trustee Brambra?
In favor.
Motion.
And I'm in favor.
Trustee Dort?
And Trustee
Murphy. My apologies.
Milton will overcome one day.
All right, agenda item 8.5, policy II-18, non-motorized, non-licensed motorized transportation. Oh, my apologies, 8.4, Policy II-13, psychoeducational, psychological assessment of individual students. Trustee Guzzo, can you please read the motion?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Be it resolved that the Halton Catholic District School Board accept the recommendation of the Policy Committee that Policy II-13, psychoeducational, psychological assessment of individual students, be approved as amended.
Or can I have a second there?
I second it.
Trustee O'Brien, any discussion? No discussion. I will take it to a vote. Trustee DeRosa?
Sorry, I was muted again. In favor.
Trustee O'Brien?
In favor.
Trustee Dort?
In favor.
Trustee Guzzo?
In favor.
Trustee Agnew?
In favor.
Trustee Murphy?
In favor.
Trustee O'Hearn Zernota?
In favor?
Trustee Caratal?
In favor.
Trustee Swan?
In favor.
Trustee Bambra?
In favor.
Trustee Carabella?
In favor.
Motion policy passes. 8.5, policy II-18, non-motorized, non-licensed motorized transportation safety. Trustee Guzzo, can you please read the motion?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Be it resolved that the Halton Catholic District School Board accept the recommendation of the Policy Committee that Policy II-18, non-motorized and non-licensed motorized transportation safety, be approved as amended.
Seconder?
Dort.
Trustee Dort. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I will take it to a vote. Trustee DeRosa?
In favor.
Trustee O'Brien?
In favor.
Trustee Carabella?
In favor.
Trustee Dort?
In favor.
Trustee Guzzo?
In favor.
Trustee Agnew?
In favor.
Trustee O'Hearn Zernota?
In favor?
Trustee Murphy?
In favor.
Trustee Caratal?
In favor.
Trustee Swan?
In favor.
Trustee Brambra?
In favor.
Policy passes. Moving on to agenda item number 9, staff reports. There are no staff reports. Moving on to agenda item 10, 10.1. Student Trustee Caratal, can you please provide your report to the board?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As always, our report is divided between the strategic priorities of the board. Trustee Bombra will first go with achieving, then Trustee Swan with believing, and I will finish with belonging, if you will.
Go ahead.
Sorry, one moment. My computer just froze. I apologize.
Can we move on to belonging?
Believing. Yes.
Or, sorry, believing?
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So in recognition of Staff Appreciation Day, we created, the 3 student trustees created a small video, which had the hashtag HDSB Heroes, really to commend all HDSB staff members for the hard work that they are doing during this very difficult time. This was shared and retweeted multiple times from the HDSB's Twitter page. As well, the Catholic Board Council in ASAECO celebrated Catholic Education Week. We celebrated the theme Igniting Hope, and this was also posted on ACSA's YouTube page. Jean Vanier School Renaming Committee, which was chaired by Superintendent Carl, on which Trustee Caratal sits, published a short list of names to be released for stakeholder feedback last Thursday. And Trustee Caratal attended the Trustee Professional Development Session on May 9th, 2020 regarding human rights and equity in education leadership. The seminar was excellently done, and all student trustees will call for proliferation for more PD sessions. I will pass it on to Trustee Caratal unless Trustee Brambra has her stuff in position.
I can continue with achieving.
Okay.
On May 8th, 2020, Trustee Swan was interviewed by Grand Toronto, a Francophone Toronto-based newspaper, and appeared on an article called High School Education in the Era of COVID-19, a Precarious Situation, l'éducation secondaire à l'ère de la COVID-19, une situation précaire. The article was focused on concerns from students during the COVID-19 pandemic, especially the state of online learning. Furthermore, OSTECO is releasing a document to the ministry outlining recommendations on how to best serve students during this period of school closures. Recommendations include how the ministry should approach marks, how to accommodate Francophone, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, and ESL students during this time, and how to help students prepare for the upcoming year. Additionally, student Senate applications for the 2020-2021 school year were released earlier this week to all secondary schools via online methods, and the applications will close on June 1st, 2020. The 3 incoming student trustees will review the applications to select the student senators, hopefully before the school year ends.
Thank you. Trustee Caratao,
thank you, Mr.
go ahead.
Chair. Of course. One last with belonging. Trustees Swan and Caratao, who is me, as well as soon-to-be trustees Roshdi and Kelly, attended the May 14th Equity and Inclusion Committee meeting chaired by Sita Jayaraman, the Manager of Human Rights and Equity. The meeting centered around the understanding of the demographics of our community, as well as considering equity and inclusivity recommendations that the board could make based off the findings of the Peel District School Board's review that was released earlier this year, and some of the initiatives and potential gaps that exist within our own board. Myself, Trustee Caratao, presented a discussion item at the May 12, 2020 Policy Committee meeting regarding Policy I-26 student trustees with the various suite of amendments, and I encourage the board to take the necessary steps to continue review of this proposal and bring it into reality. All 3 of us student trustees have been working to transition our incoming student trustees into their roles. Instead of the annual general meeting, which is typically held in the last week of May, the Ontario Student Trustees Association, OSTECO, has been working on providing online modules and professional development sessions to its members on online general meeting. As well, we've been working on setting up organization emails for incoming trustees in order to facilitate better communication for years to come. In releasing the report called Transit Feedback Among Halton Catholic District School Board Secondary Students, my colleague Trustee Swan was contacted by city councilors and Burlington Transit to look at the report and into its recommendations. Burlington Transit says they are currently working to make buses more affordable for students, although it's not exactly clear whether they refer to high school or university students. As well, the councilors were very interested in reading the report and appreciated the effort in bringing this valuable information to light. Lastly, all of us student trustees will be hosting a year-end meeting with the Student Senate on May 26th, next Tuesday, to discuss the initiatives that occurred this year, what could be improved going forward, and what students want to see in the next school year, and when they return back to school. All 3 of us student trustees are very grateful to have served for such a wonderful group of students and are excited to see the plans the incoming student trustees have in store. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for a wonderful report, all 3 of you. Moving on to agenda item 10.2, construction report, Assumption Secondary, Catholic Secondary School, Bishop Redding Catholic Secondary School, and St. Michael's Catholic Elementary School. Superintendent Merrick, could you please provide us with your report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, we have the construction report for the month of May. First up on your screen there, you'll see the Assumption Catholic Secondary School addition project completed last month. The exterior brick is now nearing completion. We have the interior stairs being formed there, and flooring and painting is ongoing. For next month, we're well into the finishing trades, so painting, flooring, and ceiling tiles, and then wrapping up the mechanical and electrical and doing commissioning there. Next up, we have the Bishop Redding Catholic Secondary School addition project, and as you know, we have 3 separate additions ongoing at the school. So first, we have the classroom addition, and you can see it's the one on the bottom right there with the courtyard. That's the exterior brick going on in the new classroom courtyard, and then we've actually already flipped over to the outside of the building, it's on the northwest side of the building, and completing the exterior brick veneer there. And then interior finishing is well underway on that classroom portion as well, with millwork, flooring, ceiling tiles, and then M&E ongoing there. We also have the cafeteria addition. So this is the one you see on the bottom left. So you can see the roof deck going on there in the picture. The roof deck's now finished there. We're proceeding on with the parapet and roofing. And the slab on grade is due for pouring later this week. And that's on the cafeteria piece. And then the child care center addition that's going on the
Merrick,
south.
can I just interrupt you for a minute? It's 10:28. I need to get a motion to extend. It has to be unanimous. So I will take a motion to extend
I'll make
first.
a motion.
I'm sorry? Nancy, you move to extend?
I move to extend. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Can I have a second there?
I can second it.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Trustee O'Brien. I get to a recorded vote. Trustee DeRosa?
In favor.
Trustee O'Brien?
In favor.
Trustee Carabella?
In favor.
Trustee Dort?
Opposed.
All right, motion fails.
Trustee Tomasi, we could finish this point though, right, with Superintendent Merrick?
No, I think, sorry.
No, it's done. So there's no extending once the vote is taken. However, we can close with a prayer.
I appeal that decision. I believe that we have to finish the item that is on the table. I appeal that decision.
All right, so you want to finish this item? Let's finish the item. Go ahead.
I have only one question to ask him.
Want to ask the question pertaining to assumption then?
Yes.
So go ahead, ask the question.
Hey, Superintendent Merrick, I am still getting emails about assumption. In your last update, you said this would be done in 2 to 3 weeks. At this point, is that still true?
Sorry, I'm not sure I said 2 to 3 weeks, but by the time students are back in the building, it'll be done, yes.
But will it be done before the end of June?
We should be done around the end of June, yes. So we had about 4 weeks of work left last time. We haven't done much work because we've been shut down for the majority of it. So we were targeting mid-May to be completed, but we were shut down for a little over 4 weeks. So we're still kind of push the timeline out now. Hopefully by kind of late June, we're wrapping up. So and we will have some curb work that we had planned to do, regardless of whether school was in or COVID-19 or not, to complete over the summertime. So we have to put the curbing in for the front parking lot there as well, and that'll be in the summer, regardless of whether it'll be in the summer regardless. So the building will be complete near the end of June, and then the exterior landscaping and curb work will be done during the summer months.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Merrick. And thank you all trustees for your patience.
Do you want to know about the rest of the construction, or are we?
Yes, could you please finish? Thank you. Yeah. Actually, that's what I was attempting to do before Trustee O'Brien decided to ask the question.
Sorry.
So, yes, Trustee Merrick.
Sherry and Tomasi, I hate to do this. I hate to do point of order, but there were some of us who would have liked to have continued this meeting, but we have somebody opposed. We have to end the meeting. And I apologize, Superintendent Merrick. There's so much more we need to deal with, including distant learning, but the rules are the rules.
Thank you, Trustee Guzzo. Thanks for your thoughts. So we are formally finished unless I hear otherwise.
There's no unless.
Mr. Chair, I voted opposed.
Yes, thank you. So we're done. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Closing prayer?
Oh, closing prayer. My apologies. I'm all confused. All right. Who has the closing prayer? Trustee Agnew, did you have a closing prayer for us?
I do. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
If you'll join me in the sign of our faith, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
As we close this meeting, Lord, we want to give honor to you. Thank you, God, for the time we had today to discuss issues and make decisions. May you bless each person who took the time to gather here today, and let your hand of protection be on them throughout the rest of the week. Let the work done here tonight come to fruition, and let it all be for your glory. Help us each to do our parts to bring the plans discussed to life. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Good night.
A motion to adjourn?
I move it.
Moved by Trustee DeRosa, seconded by? Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Trustee Carabella. All in favor?
Favor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Night.
Favor.
Night.
Good night, all.
I'm very, very tired. Why is